Story 1. Stepmom forces dad to throw me out on 18th birthday to make room for her baby. I refuse to go back after learning they stole money from my dead mom's rich family. Hey, so I've been going through a rough patch with my family, 18M, recently. I turned 18 last week, and my dad, unfortunately, thought it was the right time to kick me out. Now, my own mother passed away when I was 3 years old in an unfortunate accident. Since then, my dad has had a long list of girlfriends and failed relationships. Even as a kid, I'd literally never see him without a woman in the house. I had a nanny to look after me during the day when my dad would be at work, and whenever he would come back, his girlfriend at the time would be with him. He cut ties with my mother's family after her passing because he didn't see the point of keeping in touch with them. I assumed they didn't want a reminder of the tragedy, so they didn't claim my custody to be able to visit me either. So, growing up, it was just me and my dad, but he never seemed very interested in being a father to me and mostly spent his time either working or hanging with his girlfriend, whoever it happened to be at the time. I tried really hard to get along with him as a kid, but I never received any love and affection from him, and he just did the bare minimum for me. So, I gradually learned to expect nothing at all, and that was my childhood. Lonely and kind of sad. But thankfully, I still had my grandfather to keep me company. Occasionally, he'd visit me often and was pretty much the only family that I had. Unfortunately, he couldn't take me in because my father didn't want to give up my custody for some reason. My father is just cold but never cruel towards me, at least not when I was a kid, so I don't think my grandfather had enough legal reasons to try and take me away either. Sometimes he'd visit me. At other times, I'd go to him. But my father made sure very carefully that I didn't end up spending more than maybe 3 or 4 days at his place in case I wanted to stay over for a while. My visits to my grandfather were regulated by my dad, and I still don't know why he was so finicky about it. But I know that, for whatever reason, my father wasn't willing to give up my custody, and even though he treated me coldly, he still wanted to keep me around, and it still doesn't make sense to me. As I got older, I began to rebel because I wanted to spend more time at my grandfather's place as compared to my father. Obviously, it was because my grandfather showed me more love and affection and actually seemed to care about me beyond just the basics, but my father wasn't willing to let me. Even when I brought up how my grandfather treated me infinitely better than he did, my father would still say that at the end of the day, he's my dad and whatever he says goes. My grandfather tried to get my dad to treat me like his own kid several times, but nothing ever changed. Neither did he let me move out and live with my grandpa. And so, even in my teens, I had to continue living with my father. That was pretty much the worst phase of our relationship, and things only got worse after he met my current stepmother, Veronica, 28F. Veronica used to be our neighbor's niece who'd been living with our neighbor until her company was able to provide her with proper accommodation. But then she and my dad started going out, and they got married about a year ago after almost 8 months of dating. My dad seemed to dislike having me around but never did anything about it until Veronica came around, and then the both of them turned pretty vicious towards me. Veronica had it in for me ever since the first day, and I had no idea why. It's not like I'd done anything to her, and in fact I always tried to be very nice to her, but she hated my guts. I guess it had something to do with the fact that I was my dad's son from his previous marriage, and she couldn't stand the fact that I was still around because, that was just a reminder that my dad had been married before or something. But that's just my theory of why she hated me so much. Maybe she just didn't need a reason to hate me, and that's the kind of person that she was. I don't know. The bottom line was that she hated me, period, and my life got a lot worse after she started dating my father. She'd make it a point to be as horrible to me as she possibly could whenever we were in the same room. She practically treated me like a housekeeper or something and would make me do all the chores even though we had a maid, and my dad never said a word against it. I felt like Cinderella in my own house once she moved in. Not only that, but she also made my dad stop giving me money for whenever I wanted to go out with my friends and stuff, which had never been an issue before. She convinced him that I was old enough to get a part-time job and learn how to make my own money, so there was no need for my father to spoil me. And I had to get a job after that so I'd be able to go out with people and actually pay for stuff, which was a much easier alternative than begging my dad to treat me like a human being. It was horrible because Veronica seemed bent on making my life a nightmare at my father's house. And I couldn't wait for the day that I could finally go away to college and move the heck out of this place. I did tell my grandfather about the way that I was being treated at my father's place after Veronica moved in, and he told me that he'd talk to my father about it and do something. But things never changed, and so after a while I just gave up hope that maybe my grandfather would be able to make things better for me, because if it hadn't happened so far, then I didn't think it was going to happen in the future either. I would vent to him, and he'd listen to me patiently, but that's all that happened, and things never changed. After a while, I just accepted that I'd just have to deal with my dad and Veronica until I was able to afford to move out of this place. Then, about a week ago, on my birthday, I was planning on going out with my friends and celebrating my 18th by buying a couple of beers and having a fun night. I'd been saving up money for a while so I could splurge, but then my dad and Veronica decided that they had terrible news to give me just so they could ruin my birthday. On the morning of my birthday, they told me that they had something very important to discuss with me, and I almost thought that this was going to be something good and they'd somehow actually remember that it was my birthday. For a second, I even considered that maybe they were going to offer to pay for college. But instead, they told me that I needed to leave the house and find another place for me to stay. They told me that they were evicting me since Veronica had found out a couple of weeks ago that she was pregnant, and they wanted to use my room as a nursery for the new baby. My dad told me that they had come to this conclusion after a lot of thought, and they would rather that I did not beg or act all pathetic, so they'd reconsider because that would just ruin their happy mojo. Veronica told me that since I was an adult now, I needed to look out for myself, and this could be the start of something great. She tried her best to sound concerned and hopeful, but all I heard was a conniving snake trying to get me kicked out of my house. I tried to tone down the panic that I was feeling and decided to be rational with them because I knew that crying, kicking, and screaming weren't going to get me anywhere with these people because they had no sympathy for me. So I told them that legally they couldn't evict me without notice, and that they needed to wait for a couple of months until I was able to find a place for myself. I honestly had no idea what I was talking about, but I'm pretty sure that a law like that exists. My dad didn't fall for it, though, and told me that he had everything worked out with his lawyer already, and he highly doubted that I had enough money or resources to come after them legally anyway, which he was right about. I didn't have either of those, so I suggested that I could pay rent for as long as I would live with them, and Veronica shot that down instantly by telling me that rent was not the problem and that she just didn't want unnecessary people to deal with when she was pregnant. So I needed to vacate the house anyway just so she could have a peaceful pregnancy. I was grasping for straws, but I still made a last attempt and asked my dad if it'd be okay if I moved to the basement or something because I was pretty desperate, and my dad still said no. He worked in a bank and made a decent income, so much so that Veronica had actually quit her job to be a stay-at-home wife, so I knew that money was not the problem. After some bickering, I realized that I couldn't change their mind, and they wanted me out at any cost. Now that I was an adult, they could kick me out without any legal repercussions, and I couldn't even do anything about it. So I accepted defeat and went up to my room to pack my things and leave. I had no idea if my grandfather would be able to take me in or not. One of the major reasons that I hadn't moved in with him against my dad's orders was because he wasn't very financially stable. He'd been a high school science teacher but was now retired. He'd had an unfortunate gambling addiction when my dad was in his 20s. Which really messed up his savings, and he relied on my father heavily. He could barely even support himself, so I had no idea how he'd be able to support me as well, and that's why I hadn't moved with him earlier. But now I had no other choice. To be fair, it wasn't like my grandfather was starving or something. He lived modestly and I could get used to it, but I didn't want to push him into a corner. So, without thinking much, I headed over to my grandfather's place, and once I was there, I told him what my father had said. For about a year now, I'd been trying not to worry about this, but somewhere deep down, I'd known that this day would come. I also had to worry about how I would pay for college because I was supposed to start in the fall, and that was just a couple of months away. Thinking about all of that just made me overwhelmed, and so I started crying. And that's when my grandfather told me that he'd had enough and he'd seen enough, so it was time to do what he should have done several years ago. I didn't understand what was going on, and neither did he tell me, but he went into another room to make a phone call. I tried to eavesdrop, but I could barely hear anything, so I gave up trying. After almost an hour and a half, my grandfather finally came out of that room and told me that I had nothing to worry about anymore and that I could live with him now and I wouldn't have to worry about college either. I tried to ask him what was going on, but he told me that it was none of my business right now, and he sounded really upset, so I didn't push it further. And then he told me to go enjoy my day with my friends like I'd planned because my 18th birthday was not a day for me to sit at home and mope. Besides, now that things were all right, I had nothing to worry about, so I could go out and enjoy myself. So I decided that I was going to make the most of my day now that my problems seemed to be solved and went out with my friends. I kept my phone on silent for the evening in case my dad called and had something to say. I didn't want to let him ruin my evening like he'd ruined the rest of my day. I didn't find out about his texts and calls until I got back to my grandfather's place, which wasn't until almost 10 o'clock in the night. I don't know what got into him, but it appeared to me that he had suddenly developed a conscience somehow and was begging me to come back. I didn't reply to him immediately but waited until the next morning to say that I won't be coming back. I didn't hold back and told him the reason that I wasn't coming back was because he'd never treated me well, and now that I finally had a chance to be happy, I wasn't going to give that up. Also because Veronica was even worse than him and I couldn't bear the thought of going back to living with him again. He controlled me for a long time, but now that I was an adult, I could choose where I wanted to live, and he had no right to tell me to come back, especially not after how he and his wife had kicked me out just the day before. I'd only been worried because of my grandfather, but now that he was okay with me living with him, I wasn't going to go back to my dad under any circumstances. After I sent those texts, I just received one long text back from my father, and it was a pretty sad one too. He told me that he thought about things in private and came across an old photo album of me in his office, which just reminded him of all the promises that he'd made to my mother, and it felt like he was letting her down right now by putting Veronica and a new baby over me. So he wanted me to give him one last chance and actually be a better father this time around because the news of the new pregnancy had just spooked him a little bit, which is why he'd done whatever Veronica asked of him without a second thought. But now he realized that he shouldn't have kicked me out and wanted me to come back desperately. I didn't reply to that text because I knew that he was trying to manipulate me, but I just didn't understand what he was going to gain from this, and I still don't get it. It's been a week, and he's been texting me every day, constantly reminding me of a couple of good times from my childhood and telling me how sorry he is for how he treated me. Initially, I thought that he was trying to manipulate me, but now I just don't know anymore. I tried to talk to my grandfather about it, but he just told me not to fall for his act and seemed very put off by his son's behavior. I feel kind of sorry for my dad because now he's finally trying to be nice to me, but I don't want to go back anymore, and I feel like a jerk for some reason. The rational part of my brain knows that this is what's right for me, but a part of me just wants to go back and see what can be and if my dad will actually change or not. I don't know why, but he's trying to be a good father and make me come back even though he knows Veronica won't like it, but he's willing to put up with her outburst too just to get me back, and I feel like I owe him a second chance. Yesterday, he texted me and said that he was willing to even beg on his knees for me to come back if that's what it was going to take, and I felt sorry, but I still didn't feel sure enough to reply, and it's making me feel guilty. So, ITA for not wanting to go back to my father's house even though he's begging me to return? Update 1. So, I'm not going back to my dad's house, and I don't think he meant any of what he said. I just discovered that the reason my dad's been begging me to come back has nothing to do with me, but more to do with his lifestyle and maintaining it, if you catch my drift. I sat my grandfather down and told him all about how my dad was begging me to come back, and I still didn't want to go, and it was just making me feel like a horrible human being, and I was feeling very guilty about it. I tried to talk to him about this before, but he just told me not to fall for it and left it at that. This time, I felt like I needed to get all of this out of my system even if he wasn't any help. After hearing me out, my grandfather got really serious and told me that he wasn't allowed to talk to me about this, but he felt like it was finally time that I knew. And then he told me that ever since I was a kid, my dad didn't have to pay for anything to do with me and that it was all my mother's family contributing and funding my upbringing. And now that I'd been kicked out of my father's house, my grandfather had spoken to my mom's family and told them about how I was being treated, which is why they decided that I must now live with my grandfather. They were pretty pissed off at him as well for allowing this to go on for so many years and never saying a word about it, but now they insisted that I live with my grandfather. My dad didn't know about any of this and found out only a couple of days ago after he kicked me out, and my grandfather told him about this. My grandfather was the bridge between my mother's family and my dad and had been passing the money to him which my mother's family would send. My dad always assumed that it was my grandfather funding everything, and my grandfather never corrected him because he knew that my dad didn't like my mother's side and wouldn't take money from them, which would in turn affect me because my dad was never willing to spend money on me. So he kept it secret and pretended like he was giving my dad money to bring me up. My mother's family was pretty rich, so it was like huge amounts of money, which is probably why I went to private school for so long, because my dad would never have wanted to spend money like that on me. But unfortunately, after my dad married Veronica, he started keeping those funds from me and forced me to get a job just so I could afford even basic things like going out once in a while and buying new clothes and shoes that I desperately needed because I'd outgrown the previous ones. I mean, I know it's not exactly like he was depriving me of food or anything, but it still felt pretty bad. My grandfather still didn't tell my mother's side anything because he was afraid of the consequences and didn't know what they would have to say about this. So he just kept it all quiet. But once I got kicked out, he realized that he had to speak up for my sake and finally told them the truth. I was mad at my grandfather for never telling me about any of this. But then he told me that he had no option because my mother's family wanted this to be a secret. Apparently, they didn't want me to know that they were the ones paying for everything because then I'd probably want to meet them, and they didn't want to meet me. Not because they didn't like me, but only because they said that I looked too much like my mother and they just couldn't bring themselves to do it. So it was more of an emotional reason than a practical one that stopped my grandfather from telling me anything. I was a little mad at him for never stepping up and telling them how my father and Veronica were treating me as well, but he said that he was afraid that if he spoke up about it, my mother's family would intervene and have me taken away from them, and then he'd never get to see me again. It was an irrational fear, but he was still afraid of it. We talked things out, and I have to admit I'm still trying to process a lot of it, but at least I know the truth now, and I'm definitely not going to fall for my dad's manipulation because he's only trying to get me back so my mother's family will continue sending him the money and he can use it for his benefit. I knew that his new avatar was too good to be true anyway, so I'm not too upset about any of this. Update 2. I blocked my father after learning the truth about why he was so desperate to get me back. It's been a couple of days since then, and since he can't contact me, he started using Veronica's number to text me. And even she called me to let me know that I was being horrible to my father. I didn't have her number saved, so I accidentally answered the call. As soon as I heard her voice on the other end, I wanted to hang up, but curiosity got the better of me, and I stayed while she pretended like she was crying and told me through mock sobs that my dad was really upset, and she couldn't see him like this, especially in her condition, like she had a disease or something. I told her that I wasn't interested in speaking to her, and so she handed over the phone to my dad, who was about to say something, but I cut him off and said that he could drop his little act now because I knew the truth and I wasn't going to fall for it. He said that he didn't know what I was talking about, so I told him that maybe my mother's family could explain better, and then hung up and blocked Veronica's number as well. It was pretty satisfying to hand it back to them, and my grandfather thinks that I dealt with it well. In other news, I spoke to my grandfather, and I told him that I really wanted to meet my mother's family even though I knew that they didn't want me to meet them because it was hard for them to see me. But I just had to see these people and thank them for everything that they did for me. It was a little difficult, but my grandfather finally managed to convince them to fly down here and meet me for the first time. I have seen pictures of my mother's family, her parents and her older brother, but I guess meeting them is going to be very different. I don't know what to expect, and there's still a couple of days to go before I have to go see them, but I'm excited, and I know that no matter what, they're going to love me. And even though this is my first time ever seeing them in person, I know that I'll love them too. Update 3. Hey, so I'm coming back from my first meeting with my mother's family, and I'm happy to say that it went well. My grandfather was there with me every step of the way, and I'm glad for it because I was pretty nervous. My other grandparents also were lovely people, and my uncle was actually just the same person as I am, but just a lot older. All of us cried a little when we saw each other, which was pretty awkward for the other guests at the restaurant to see. But we didn't care. We were just so happy to meet each other. And once we got over the emotional part of the meeting, they started asking me about my life and interests, and I told them everything, and they actually seemed to be interested and cared about me. They also told me that I didn't need to worry about my college fund because they had it all planned out, but I'd forgotten to mention it to my grandfather, and that was a huge relief as well. We had a great time overall, and we're going to meet a couple more times before they fly back home next week. They've promised me that we're going to meet every month, and they'll either have me fly out to them or they'll come to me, but we definitely will catch up every month, and I'm really happy about it. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Caught my wife cheating on me with a car mechanic, so I made her lose a big job opportunity and filed for divorce. My wife and I have been married to each other for 10 years now, and for the most part we've had a pretty sweet marriage. Sure, there have been the occasional big disputes, but I've never looked at human relationships as always being conflict-free. I am 41 years old now, and she is 37. We both never wanted children, which is a decision we've never regretted. I've been earning 6 figures for all the years we've been married, and my wife earns in the high 5 figures. There's always been a lot of money to enjoy ourselves with, but we always try to be smart financially and make good investments. Because of my work, we've moved 3 times. From New York, where we started dating and got married, to Phoenix, and then finally to Cupertino. We've been settled in Cali for about 4 years now, and we probably won't move. In fact, it was when it seemed like we wouldn't be going anywhere that I decided it'd be a good time for my wife to get a new car. I bought her a brand new Audi Q8, and I still feel very stupid about it because the purchase was the catalyst for things going bad. However, it exposed my wife's true nature, and for that much I can't help but be grateful for the way that things went. Regardless, she was ecstatic with the gift, and she was incredibly thankful to me. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd month that she had the car that a check engine light came on. Personally, I was frustrated because I felt like she must have been doing a poor job taking care of the vehicle. I've driven Autos and I love them. They certainly never started to complain on me so fast. Regardless, she claimed she hadn't treated it any differently from all the other cars she had driven, which, fair point, none of them had ever been driven or maintained like crap. So, she took the vehicle back to the dealership to get it looked at. She came back after about 2 hours and said that they had fixed the problem for free under warranty. Apparently, it wasn't a big deal, and she seemed very happy about the development. I was glad to see how much joy the car working like normal brought her, but looking back, I now realize her happiness was probably due to something else. I think it was about a month after this that my wife scraped one of her rims against a curb while trying to park in a tight spot. I saw it as she drove into her space in the garage that evening, and she explained what had happened. However, she had taken the initiative to drive down to the dealership to try and get it replaced. I knew it would never be covered by warranty, and she confirmed that was what she was told. But then she said the mechanic from the last time was there, and he said he could get me a replacement rim for a lot cheaper. I got his number so I can ask him more about it. To be honest, I thought she could potentially get a bargain, but I warned her to talk to me first before paying the guy, as it could be a scam. The next day she said she had spoken with the mechanic and she'd go to his shop to get the rim replaced. I was a bit shocked that she had moved so quickly with the arrangement, especially because I wanted to make sure things were safe, but at the same time, I took it as her enthusiasm around the new car. She didn't want anything to make it look less sexy than it was when it was brand new. I didn't voice any of my concerns because I had already made up an excuse for her. Remember that I had no reason to doubt my lovely wife of 10 years. So off she went to the mechanic's place. She came back about 4 hours later, clearly in a very good mood. The rim had been fixed, she had done some shopping, and everything was supposedly well with the world again. I didn't think too much of the whole thing at this point. Through the next few months, my wife's car ran reliably and there wasn't much out of the ordinary with it. However, during that time a point came where my car's brakes were acting up. I was already driving in the city, and the last thing I wanted to do was drive across town to my trusted mechanic and potentially risk brake failure. I remembered that my wife briefly mentioned the area where she had earlier met the Audi mechanic for the rim replacement, and since I was in the general district, I decided to give him a shot on a whim. Of course, I didn't know exactly where his shop was, so I gave my wife a quick call. "Hey," I said, "quick one. My brakes are feeling soft, and it's got me a little worried. I'm a bit too far from my mechanic's place and I don't want to risk it. So can you send me the address of the guy that fixed up your rim the other time?" After I said this, there was a brief silence, but I could still hear the background noise, so I knew she was still on the line. I noticed that the first few words of her first sentence came out in a stutter, and I was instantly on alert. "Oh, he's more familiar with Autos. You've got a BMW, so he might not have the expertise needed to help you out. Maybe you should risk it and try and go over to your usual guy." She was very clearly trying to steer me away from this guy, and I really don't know whether she thought she was slick with it. Unfortunately for her, I insisted, partly because I really didn't want my brakes to fail on me, and because my suspicions were raised tenfold. She eventually sent the address to me, and I went through the short drive to his shop. To be honest, it was a pretty nice shop when I pulled in, and there were just 2 or 3 guys sitting at a plastic table playing cards. When I stepped out of the car, one of them stood up and came to me, greeting me. He was a pretty handsome guy, but I wasn't sure if he was Jim or not. Name not changed because who cares about him? So, I told him about the problem with my Beamer, and he said he'd check it out right away. Right before he walked off to get some tools, I stopped him. By any chance, do you know a certain woman who comes here in a Q8? A black one? On hearing that, I noticed that he cracked a smile, but then he did his best to tuck it away. Yeah, I think that sounds familiar. She comes in every now and then. You know her. I told him that she was my wife and that she referred me, and I swear I saw him freeze for just a second before trying to regain his composure. Oh, cool. She's a good customer. She was here a week ago for a brief checkup. He shut up right away after that. At that moment I knew something was up because she never told me she had taken the car in, and if it was having an issue, she should have taken it to the dealership since it was still new. I had to stop my fury from building since I was still only working with suspicions, as solid as I felt they might be. I needed to make sure I had solid proof before I allowed my anger to get the better of me. The worst part is that the guy couldn't have been older than 25, and he was relatively good-looking. I never thought my wife was the kind of woman who'd get smitten over a kid for a fling. It made me even madder, but again I had to tell myself to chill out. But I think it was right at that moment, as I had to wait there looking at the guy's mug, that I told myself I was going to get to the bottom of things. Close to an hour later, he was done with my car, and I was back on my way home. I was going a bit too fast, I'll admit, which was ironic since I was worried about my brakes not too long before that. Anyway, I got back home and I saw the Q8 parked, so my wife was back home. She met me at the door, and I don't know if I was imagining it or not, but she seemed shifty. She helped me with my coat. She seemed to be following me around quite a bit, and when she finally asked, "How was the visit to the mechanic?" it seemed like she had been itching to ask. Of course, I knew better than to try and confirm my suspicions directly, so I just told her the mechanic was a nice kid and he happened to know how to work with BMWs. She seemed relieved, which made me happy because I was fighting to keep my anger and suspicions locked up. All I needed to do was be patient, and patient I was. My wife is a heavy sleeper, so once she dozed off and I heard her light snoring, I got out of bed and grabbed her phone from her bedside table. It had a passcode, but I knew it since it was the same passcode she uses on everything. I had never needed to check her phone before now, so I was scared of what I was going to find. The first place I went was iMessage, but after scrolling a lot, I found nothing of note. That wasn't going to be the end of my search, though, so the next place I went was Messenger, and right at the top I saw a message from a certain Jim, with a preview of the last message sent being, "Haha, me too. I loved it when you licked me, father." I knew there was nothing good waiting for me behind the preview, but I had to open it. My suspicions needed to be fed, as painful as I knew it was going to be. "You drove me crazy with your tongue last time. I loved it so much. Haha, me too. I loved it when you licked me from top to bottom. I'm getting wet just thinking of it." On reading that, I felt my heart sink in my chest. I felt cold, and I felt my hand grip the phone even tighter. I really can't describe the emotions I felt at that moment, but it was some combination of betrayal, heartbreak, and pure, undiluted pain. Yet I kept reading. I had to know everything. I had to know when it started, what they had done, when they had done it, and so on. My curiosity carried me all the way to the top of their conversations with each other. And everyone, all I can say is that I've never felt such deep pain before. Ever. I put her phone back on the bedside table, removing any evidence that I was ever there. But I remember standing in the dark of the room and just staring at her. I won't lie, the hurt I felt in that moment drove me to some really messed up thoughts as I looked at her. I must have stood there for 5 minutes, but in the end, I went back to my side of the bed and stared at the ceiling. I didn't sleep a wink, and I just went over every single thing I had read over again. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I remembered they had sex at least twice, and they did it once in the back room of his workplace, so sleazy for a supposedly high-class woman, and once in some kind of hotel or motel. There didn't seem to be much remorse, and there was mention of next time. To be honest, it took the strength of Hercules to stop me from flipping out in the middle of the night. The thing is, I called in sick after she left for work the morning after because I really couldn't concentrate in the state I was in. However, this is another day after and I've called in sick again. I won't say that I'm completely all right, but I think I've placed my anger to one side, and I'm focused on making her pay because how can you throw all of this away for a cheap fling? I'm not looking to do anything illegal, because she's not worth it anymore. But how do you guys think I can get back at her? I'm not going to cheat back because it literally won't fix anything. I need her to feel the kind of pain I'm feeling right now, because imagine the car I bought her as a gift being the reason why she eventually cheated on me. Like I said, if you've got advice, let me know what you think. I can barely think straight. Edit 1. Yes, it goes without saying that I'm going to get divorced, because I cannot stay with a cheating hoe, whether we've been married for 10 years or not. The guy looks young enough to be my kid, and something about that is just disgusting to me. Edit 2. No, I will not let it go. If I was going to, I wouldn't be here. No, again, I will not cheat back and throw it in her face. I want to hurt her in a more lasting way, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. I did see a suggestion about sabotaging her at work, and the truth is that might work out if I can be patient. I don't know if I can, to be honest, but I'll try to wait for the right opportunity. Edit 3. So everyone, I think I've come up with a perfect plan to get back at my wife. I'm sorry for taking so long to update you, but I think my patience will pay off for me and all of you in the end. I would divulge the details here, but I think it'll be better to update you guys when I've carried things out. Update 1. First off, I'm so sorry for making you all wait, but my goodness, it will be worth it. Trust me. I had to wait about 10 days before I could do anything. My wife has a very important business meeting that she has been preparing for. A tech company is about to move offices, and she is the lead on closing a supply deal for her company. In a stroke of genius, if I do say so myself, I figured out the perfect way to get back at her. Poetic justice. But we'll get to that soon. She has spent a lot of time fretting about this big deal she needs to close, and I eventually got involved in helping her prepare for it. I was there playing the role of the tech company's rep, asking questions, giving her tips, and so on. Tonight is the night before the meeting, and there was a lot of intense preparation, and she feels very confident. She thanked me so much, and I was so irritated each time she repeated it, but I had to force a smile through it all. Just so you know, I checked her phone again a few days ago, and yes, they met up another time. I needed that to refuel me because I was already starting to wonder whether I was doing too much. Anyway, I shoot her off to sleep, because a good night's rest is essential for big meetings or exams. Kids. Once I heard her soft snoring, I knew it was time for me to move. I went straight to the garage and towards her car, popping open the driver's side door. In case you don't know, the battery for the Q8 is under the driver's floorboard. But I know this, and I went straight for it, disconnecting the terminals. Besides that, I put everything right back the way I found it and attempted to start the vehicle. Risky, I know, but our garage is insulated well enough to absorb most of the sound. When it didn't make a sound, I knew I was good to go. I wasn't done yet, though. Oh no. Next up, I went to my own car and deflated one tire by a lot. It was clear to me that once she couldn't get her car started, she'd beg to take mine because of how important her meeting was. I could Uber to work or something after all. Like I said, she sleeps heavily and I pretty much always wake up before her, so I grabbed her phone from her bedside table and I've turned off the alarm she has for 6:30. I know that I will probably sleep like a baby tonight, even with my cheating wife beside me. I feel like Dr. Frankenstein waiting to watch his creation come to life. I'm sitting in bed right now bubbling with excitement, and I decided to let you guys know what I'm planning for. Just wish me luck that everything goes according to plan. Update 2. Hello, gentlemen. Do I have some amazing news for you? As expected, I woke up before her at 6:45, and I turned her alarm back on. Her meeting was scheduled for 8 a.m., and I eventually woke her up at 7:10 with a fake panic in my voice. Honey, wake up. Wake up. Your alarm didn't go off. She ran straight to the bathroom, and I heard the tap go on right away. Yep, during that time I was looking for ways I could delay her even further. That's how invested I was in her downfall at this point, because I've never been a bad-looking dude, and I could have slept with countless girls over the years, but I didn't because I thought marriage meant something. Apparently not. It was 7:55 by the time my wife had brushed her teeth, showered, picked out an outfit, done her makeup, and had a quick cup of coffee. No, I didn't start the machine for her like I usually do. I heard her get into her car in the garage and close the door, and I waited to hear if the car would magically turn on. But of course it didn't. She shouted from the garage after about 2 minutes, and I walked over to where she was. "What's up with your car?" I put on my best concerned look. "Open the hood. Let me take a quick look for you." She did just that, and I looked around, checked the oil, tapped a few things, and asked her to try again. I did this for another 5 minutes. My aimless actions changed nothing, of course. "Maybe it's the battery," I said. "It's not even attempting to turn on. So probably the battery, but I can't figure out where it is in the engine bay." She was barely listening to me because she was fretting. I thought I could see her eyes watering. She knew what was on the line, and I felt the greatest sense of schadenfreude any man has ever felt in that moment. Took her a while. It was 8:15 before she said, "Let me take your car." She ran inside to get my key before I could even respond in the affirmative. It would take her about 20 minutes to get to work now, since she hadn't beaten the work time rush. As she ran out, I had to shout at her, "Wait, I have a flat. Hold on." She looked like she was going to rip her hair out. She rushed to my trunk and brought out the portable pump I use, setting it up herself. It took a few minutes before it was fully inflated. She packed up the pump, tossed it in the back seat, and got into the car. I was hoping to drag things out a bit more, but she had taken care of things herself. My job was done, and I watched as she drove off a bit too fast at that. At that moment, I did hope she wouldn't get into an accident, but that was where my concern ended. I went back inside and logged into work for my laptop. I knew it was going to be a waiting game at that point, and I had things to do. I decided to make it a remote work day, since I could use my wife taking my car as an excuse. My bosses love me, so that wasn't too much of an ask from them. Felt like forever, though. I kept trying to keep my mind off whether my revenge plot was working the way I wanted it to. But it was hard. It was so hard to concentrate, but I did my best. In that time, I decided to plug her battery back in to cover my tracks. And then almost 2 hours later, I heard my car pull up into the garage. I had to remind myself to put on my game face as she entered. I beamed and said, "I just know you crushed it. You're my superstar." But I could see she had been crying. "Don't smile, don't smile." I had to keep telling myself that, and every time I felt a drop of sympathy trickling in, I reminded myself that she had let this guy climb on top of her more than once. She had no remorse. Neither could I. "What's wrong, honey?" As I said that, she burst into tears. She was mostly unintelligible through all the snot and tears, but I got the gist of what she said. "My friends, listen up. The best-case scenario. It worked. Everything worked the way I wanted it to. She got to work way late, and the lady she was always complaining about at work had to take the mantle. My genius didn't predict this outcome, of course, and was commended for stepping up despite the pressure. Unsurprisingly, the entire presentation was a train wreck, all because my wife let them down on the most important day. The biggest potential account the company could have had went down the toilet like a turd, and it was all my wife's fault. Yep, she was let go as soon as the tech company's rep stepped out of the building. For someone who had worked for them, that was harsh, but so was losing the company millions of dollars. She told me through sniffling and wailing that people were whispering and snarling at her as she walked out of the office, the most embarrassing kind of termination. She had let down the entire company, all because of that stupid car. I said, "I'll have to give that mechanic a piece of my mind because it seems he must have done a pretty crap-happy job the last time you took the car to him. This is all his fault." I noticed that her sniffling quieted down, and I could almost hear her brain processing whether her darling Jim, her sin, was the direct reason why this happened. I kept going, "Man, that mechanic. This entire thing was because of him." That was a little hint for her, but I didn't really care whether she caught it or not. She spent the night drinking, and I told her I had a headache, so I went upstairs to sleep. I wasn't sleeping, though. I was making arrangements with my lawyer to get the papers for divorce ready. I had to put up with her whining for a few days more before I served her. I will never forget her face at that moment, though. At my lowest moment, there were tears streaming down her cheeks. She was hysterical. Why would you do this to me now? What did I do to you to deserve this? I don't know, but maybe you can ask your sweet Jimmy boy. I'm sure he'll have an answer for you. Tell him to check out your car while he's at it. Can't have you losing your job again. Now can we? I've never seen her look so shocked. She looked like a deer caught in headlights, and she was literally speechless. I couldn't help it, and I actually laughed in her face right there. I was sick and tired of her at this point. Pack your things and find somewhere else to go. I'll give you some hours. And from there I took off. I drove around town trying to make sense of my emotions. I'll admit that there was a blend of sadness, joy, relief, and pain, but there was definitely no regret. By the time I got back, it was dark, and she was gone. It's been 2 weeks since then, and she hasn't come back. My emotions were very complex. Otherwise I would have updated all of you earlier, but things are over. There are no kids to worry about, and I already told her parents everything, so I know they won't come to join her to grill. I feel good, though, like a cancer has been cut out of my life. Took some healthy flesh with it, but it is honestly for the better. I'm not too old, so I have a lot of life ahead of me. About Jim, I considered finding a way to punish him for his role in all of this, but he's pretty much just a kid, and my wife was the cougar in this situation. I think I'll let him off the hook, but I might change my mind. If I do, I'll let you guys know. But for now, that's it. I really appreciate all of your comments and support through this. Just remember, guys, it's never going to be worth staying with a cheating partner. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Wife wants a divorce because I made her friend pregnant while we had a threesome, even though I used protection. This divorce is happening because her friend wants to keep the baby. My wife, Letty, and I used to have an amazing relationship. We met each other 8 years ago, married 4 years ago, and we used to have a great marriage. We had our ups and downs, but we always solved any issue and never let a day pass before we'd end things between us. We were happy. The last year, we started to be more adventurous in the bedroom after an event in our family. Letty decided to let go of her shyness and to live every single thing she could think, and that ended up in her becoming creative in the bedroom. We tried everything that caught our attention. If we saw something on TV or read about it, we tried it. We had so much fun together. After trying something she was very curious to try, she let me choose something to do. She told me to choose something you ever wanted to try but never had the chance. I stupidly told her I always wondered how it would be to be with 2 girls. She agreed and started to plan a threesome. I still regret that moment. We ended up choosing a girl we know, Abby, a friend of hers from her job. She is the type of girl that believes in energies, crystals, vibes, etc. A free spirit girl, and she is nice to hang around. We told her, and she ended up accepting. We chose her because we knew it was very probable she would accept, but we also chose her because physically she is very different from my wife. While she is small with pale skin, short hair, and little button breasts, not saying she is ugly, she is very cute. My wife has tan skin, long beautiful hair, and a great body. The idea was that this way there would not be insecurities about me comparing them or that I would prefer her. So we set it up. She came to our place and we spent the night together, and I regret it. Even if those hours were great at the moment, I would do anything to get back to that night and stop everything. The following days everything was great. Letty was happy that I liked it, and Abby kept it private, so it was like another perfect adventure for us. Then, after a few days, Letty started to become distant, sleeping at the other side of the bed, not wanting me to kiss or hug her, not even cuddling. At first, she said it was because she was tired, but after insisting, she told me it was due to the threesome. She told me that even if she had fun that night, now she was feeling awful, cheated, used, that the image of me making love to another woman was burned on her mind. She wasn't comfortable with me near to her. We tried talking about it, even got into counseling. I tried everything to make her sure I only love her, that it was just a fantasy that would never happen again. And then Abby called me. Her period was delayed, and she believed she could be pregnant. That killed my marriage. My wife moved out from our house and has asked for a divorce. She said she can't be near to me knowing that another woman is pregnant with my child. It's too much for her. She can't even see me. No matter what I do or say, for her it's over. Meanwhile, Abby took a test, and she was indeed pregnant. I still don't know how it happened. I use protection all the time, even checked it after using it, and still she is pregnant. Abby is 100% sure the baby is mine. She says that before me, she hasn't done it with anyone else in months, and she is so sure about it that she offered to make a DNA test when the baby is born just to clear any doubts. I feel like I fucked up all my life. Letty is the love of my life, and she doesn't want to see me. Abby is not a bad friend at all, but she is the type of person you can only take in small doses, and now I'm bounded to her forever. She wants to keep the baby and wants me to be part of the baby's life. Sometimes I want to just disappear. I'm desperate. My life is falling apart for that stupid mistake. I don't know what to do. Edit. Thank you all for the comments. There are so much, so I thought it would be better to answer here just to make clear some things most of you are pointing. 1. I used a condom. We did it more than once that night, and every single time I used a condom. I bought them, checked them after finishing, and I disposed of them and finished outside. 2. The threesome wasn't something we did in a rush. We took our time on planning it, talked a lot, and confirmed multiple times if we were really sure, and all the time we both were on it. 3. We didn't jump straight into adding a third one. Long time before that we started experimenting, playing, and being kinky. This was just another thing to try. No one was pressured into it. In the moment, I just said it because I couldn't think of anything else. I was surprised when she said we could try it. 4. Abortion is not an option here. Abby wants the baby. 5. As much of you saw, English isn't my first language. Sorry for my errors. 6. I talked with Abby. She is more than willing to take a DNA test. Comments. Comment 1. Abby can do a blood test now to confirm your paternity. You do not have to wait until after the child is born. Comment 2. Abby is kind of an idiot for wanting him to be a part of the kid's life. She accidentally conceived during a threesome with a married couple. Like, be for real, girl. Comment 3. That poor kid is going to be confused when they learn how they were conceived. Comment 4. Threesomes is something you do only when you are single. The amount of cases I've seen here daily like yours is insane. Threesomes inside relationships always lead to breaking up. Comment 5. 2FAP2L8 and they did it with one of her coworkers, lol. You never do that shit with people you work with. Also, he acted like she wasn't attractive, but his description of her made her sound very attractive. Update. Hello. Some had sent me messages asking for an update, and I think I can give one. Abby and I took the test. I'm the father. She is open to do another test after the baby is born if I want to be sure, but as things seem to be, it is my baby. At first, I took it the worst way possible. I kept torturing myself for being such an idiot, and reading some of the comments made me realize that I'm the biggest stupid for asking my wife to add another girl to our bedroom. Abby and I talked after the test. She is keeping the baby. She wants to be a mom and wants me to be a father for the baby. She told me that she didn't expect me to start living with her and get married, just to take charge of the responsibilities that will come with the baby and to get along and be good friends for the baby. She had also apologized for how things had developed, saying that she never wanted to hurt me or Letty. Her intention was to just have fun, but that she is grateful and excited for the baby. She and I are on good terms now. I'm still not totally comfortable with her, and she's saying that if I can't save my marriage and end up divorcing my wife, she wouldn't mind having fun with me again. Makes me doubt about her real intentions. On the other side, my wife hasn't started the divorce yet. She moved back and we have talked. At first, she was so angry at me, and I let her do and say all she needed. Every insult and name, I earned it. Then she got very sad. We cried together as she told me she still loves me. She said she can't live without me but can't live with me either after what happened. The threesome is not the problem anymore. Now it is about me having a baby with Abby. It is hard. Both are confused and scared and still don't know if we will get over this. But the thing that have me even more confused is that recently my wife's libido had grown. For moments, she asked for intimacy and right after wants space. She wants to be kinky and do the things we used to try to play, and right after she goes to another room. I've asked her and she said she don't know why she does it. She just feel that she needs it. She is still insecure about us, about what we are, where we are. Divorce is still on the table, so we are stuck. I would like to do what to do, but I don't know what is the right thing or how to solve this. I know I'll have to be responsible for the baby, but I want to save my marriage too. Comments. Comment 1. I'd be very careful and cautious with Abby with those comments. Hope Letty and you are healing. Comment 2. That is what I'm thinking. Comment 3. Cut her off except you need to pay child support, but otherwise, distance yourself as much as possible. Otherwise, this will tank any chance of you staying married. Comment 4. I'm not jumping to Abby baby trapped you, but her behavior now is throwing major red flags. Talk to a lawyer. Get custody plans drawn up and ready to go. Get another test at birth, and then put those plans into action. As to what the plans should be, that's up to you and your wife. Whatever they are, they should keep your wife and Abby far, far apart. I suspect Abby may attempt to sabotage your marriage to free you up for fun and dad time. Comment 5. Thanks, I'm looking for it. Comment 6. If I may, you should move away with your wife. Adding a baby that's not hers and forcing her to constantly see the reminder of your actions is going to destroy whatever is left of your marriage. Provide child support but keep your distances. Demand Abby only communicates with you through a lawyer. She clearly has no good intentions. Comment 7. I don't understand people, man. This guy, don't you have a wife, someone who's there for an active sex life? Why the fuck would you think a threesome is such a good idea, let alone include someone or are married to and tell them to have a threesome? Are you all that sexually uncontrollable? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, my friend. Time to think before your actions. We are humans and we make mistakes. But there's a line which you shouldn't cross. You crossed it, got your marriage fucked up, made a random buy. A child pregnant who wants to keep the baby. What else would you need in life, right? I'm sorry, but if you're unable to maintain a private, intimate relationship with someone and want so much more in sexual fantasy, you're better off being single and doing your shit without including a loved one. Comment 8. Bro used condoms and such and kept changing condoms. How did she get pregnant? Now, if the DNA is yours, it's yours, but if you guys planned it all good and properly, I don't see in any of your messages anywhere of you actually looking, searching, and trying to find out how or when she got pregnant. Where did you throw the condoms? Where were you guys after the threesome? Where was she after the threesome? Where did this threesome take place? Did all of you stay over? Did you just throw the condoms in a bin or did you wash and flush them? Yeah, I am going to hear about don't flush blah blah blah. Yeah, don't care about that at this point. I want answers. The fact she just out of freaking nowhere wants baby, wants you to be part of it, wants you to be active and etc. Buddy, don't know what to tell you. But she is not exactly looking for friendship. This chick has actively been interested in you, and she is doing everything to replace your wife subtly. If she cannot have you, she doesn't mind having to share you with said wife, but she wants to keep you close. Let me ask you another question. During the threesome, how active or interested was she and your wife? How much time did she invest in her? How much more did she do? Also, great that you used condoms and whatnot, but if you used condoms only on her, but you did end up busting in your wife, chances are if they went scissoring, could have caused it. If you busted a load on your wife's face and she ended up fully going down on Abby, that is also another way of having it happen. I am just throwing some things out there. Sorry if I'm being graphical or whatever. I am just curious and also questioning why you or no one has actually wondered or questioned how it's possible she got pregnant. Comment 9. We used condoms every time. One of the doctors told me that it is very rare, but condoms can fail. It needs a little even microscopical hole that is unnoticed and a lot of bad luck. But it's possible. I threw the used condoms in the room's trash bin. It would be impossible for her to take them without us noticing. It happened in our room, and we stayed a little on the bed after we were done. After that, we dressed and went to the kitchen for coffee, and after that she left. I don't know what are her real intentions, but I'm definitely not going to be with her. I'll take charge of my responsibilities as a father, but just that. There wasn't many interaction between them. It was more both focused on me. The only things they did was when I asked them to kiss, and when I was doing it with my wife, Abby was touching her body. Beside that, they barely interacted between them. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Girlfriend dumped me after my building security lied and told her I was cheating. My 21M building security has informed my GF20F that I am cheating. Hi y'all. This is such a strange situation to be in, but now that I need your advice on how to deal with it. Basically, my girlfriend and I have been dating for 2 years and a half. We met at a party and hit off extremely well. We were friends for a bit, but we clearly had feelings for one another, so we ended up dating. She gets a bit jealous whenever I talk to girls because she has first-hand experience with how flirtatious I am, so naturally she's a bit iffy about me hanging out with girls. The thing is, I am a naturally flirtatious guy. I don't do this intentionally, but I am told that I am very attentive and that makes girls go head over heels for me. So a lot of times I learn later on that my friends have been trying to get with me. Usually, I brush it off and establish strong boundaries on our friendship. Through my actions, I make sure not to let anything happen. I also want to put emphasis on the fact that when I commit to a relationship, I mean it. I quite frankly think cheaters are pathetic and cowardly. If I wanted to date multiple women, I would. However, I love my GF and absolutely enjoy committing my time and love for her. Anyways, to the issue, I bring my girlfriend to my place often to hang out and whatever. Therefore, my concierge is quite familiar with her. Thing is, recently my really good friend moved to my city and we've been catching up quite a bit. I usually don't have my friends over at my place, but since we are close, I didn't mind hanging out with her at mine. Of course, I let my girlfriend know whenever she's over. However, around 30 minutes ago, my girlfriend storms into my place and starts going crazy, accusing me of cheating and the sort. I have no clue what's up because last I checked, I wasn't cheating. Anyway, she goes off about how the concierge told her everything and how I apparently effed my friend, and on about whatever. She ended up leaving and said we were done. To be honest, I was quite shocked to do anything, and I was proper curious as to why she thought I was cheating despite me explicitly telling her all the times that my friend was going to be over. So I go downstairs and confront the concierge. He tells me that apparently he saw me and my friend being flirty, and that when I came down to drop her to her Uber, she was giggling and laughing and being touchy. Therefore, he felt something was off. These were his exact words, by the way. So naturally, I got pissed and I told him that it was none of his business and that he crossed a huge line. Now, the reason why I write here is because I have no clue what to do. There are so many things racing in my mind and I'm honestly confused. How should I even speak to my girlfriend? What should I do about the concierge? Any advice? More info? I think I'll message her to meet up. I feel this is something better dealt with in person than anything. I'll tell her he was talking out of his ass and had no idea what was really going on. That I'm sorry she's hurt, but that I didn't and wouldn't cheat on her, and hope she'll trust me more than a guy she barely knows and will give me a chance to talk it over. I'm not sure whether or not to involve my friend in this. I'm on the fence whether that would help or just add insult to injury. Now to address my flirtiness. I use the word flirt incorrectly. I've been told I come across as flirting. Whenever I ask how I can stop coming across as a flirt, I get these responses. You pay attention, you listen well, you look at the girl in the eyes, etc. So what do you guys reckon I do? Stop all these behaviors. I don't give romantic attention to any woman, but if they find it that way, it's my fault. Really? If a guy thought a girl was trying to woo him when she was being friendly, everyone would carry pitchforks and bully the guy. Why is it so that when some girls think that me actually valuing what they say is an indication that I want to EF them, and then everyone here finds me to be a guy toying with their feelings? Finally, about leaving her, as easy as that comes out, it's hurting my gut quite a bit thinking about it. I mean, everyone has flaws, but despite this, she's one of the most caring people I have ever been with. Anyway, for now I have no clue what to do since I'm blocked. I'm not sure if I should go through our mutual friends. Edit. Wow. I didn't expect so many comments and I really appreciate all of you for taking your time and giving me advice. I felt quite trash last night and I decided to sleep. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I think the effects of last night are raining down on me because I feel quite sick to the stomach. All feels like an elaborate nightmare. For now, I'm going to go through the advice everyone has so kindly offered and piece together what I should do. Date 1. It seems like she's told a lot of our mutual friends that I cheated on her. A lot of people are messaging me and some of the messages are scary because they're quite hurtful. Others are curious about my side of the story. I honestly don't know what on earth to do. I feel like trying to explain myself will just fall flat. I'm panicking quite a bit. Any advice? Update 2. Hi everyone. I have another couple of questions because things have gotten a lot worse since. So she blocked me on everything after I messaged her to meet up so we can talk about it. Then she went on to tell all our friends and everyone seems to know. A lot of them have messaged me with some horrible stuff and it feels like someone punched my gut. I mean, FFS, I didn't even cheat and it makes me want to cry when people just assume I am a cheater. I've always thought cheaters were the lowest of the low and being branded one hurts a lot. Nonetheless, some of my friends were curious about my side of the story, so I decided to have them over and tell them about it all. My friend who was caught cheating with me is also going to be coming over. Any advice on how to approach this? Because I don't want it to be simply my words against hers. I'm also not sure what to do about the concierge. This dude has single-handedly ruined my life. I mean, I have lost a lot of hope in saving my relationships and just wish this could all end and become normal. I really don't think getting him fired will do any justice. A few of you have recommended suing him for slander. I haven't brought this situation up to my parents, but I will do if nothing improves. What do y'all think? Also, thanks a lot to those who have been gentle and empathetic of my situation. This would be extremely depressing to go through alone. I feel a lot less lonely with your support and it means incredibly to me. I will definitely find a way to repay those few and have you know that you have me if God forbid anything happens in your own lives. Update 3. Hey everyone, this is going to be my last update since I don't have any more questions for y'all, and it's only fair to give you guys one since you've literally been through this with me. So basically, my friends came over and supported me quite a bit. We agreed on some steps I should take next. 1. Block her and all her friends from my social media. All in all, just avoid the friends group. 2. Do not respond to any social media posts because it will just add fuel to the flame. 3. Get in contact with lawyers because one of my friend's dad, a lawyer, said that I have a strong case and I should pursue it further. Demand an apology letter from the concierge. I've already spoken to my parents and they have got me in touch with their friends who are lawyers, so I will take it from there. 4. Move out of my building. Even if the concierge is fired, my lease will be ending soon, so it's not too bad. Apart from that, my friends just supported me and reassured me that I didn't do anything wrong. Since every single one of you was attacking me for being a flirt, I asked them for their honest opinion on me being a flirt. Apparently, they said they never called me a flirt, but they said that they just told me that some girls confided in them that they thought I was being flirty. They wrote that up to the girls reading into things and not me. Nonetheless, I learned I wasn't 100% correct in the way I approached my friendships. A few of my friends brought up some of the points you guys mentioned in the posts and said that you guys were spot on about them. They offered me suggestions on how to work on these points. Hopefully, I won't have any more girlfriends leaving me because of my concierges in the future. LOL. I haven't heard back from my ex yet. Her friends are just spamming me with shit, but I haven't replied to them. I don't think I will, and I'll just end up blocking them. I'd like to speak to my ex in the future to get some closure, but it doesn't seem like it will be anytime soon. I'm still in shock because we've been together for nearly 3 years. That's nearly all of my university life, which is weird to think about. I thought we were a perfect couple, but I guess not. I also have to say I got quite arrogant/cocky in the past thread, and I am sorry about that. I was just ticked off and overwhelmed, so that was my defense mechanism. I didn't mean to flex that I've been with many girls or whatever, but I got a bit annoyed by people constantly saying that I intentionally flirted to get attention from them. It's one thing to brush off a comment or two, but when it gets to 50+ comments saying the same thing, one starts getting defensive. Regardless, I should have kept my composure and I shouldn't have reacted badly. After all, it was my idea to seek advice from you all. Last night was a bit weird though. My friends and I went out to a bar and got a bit drunk. On my way home, my cheating friend, she's going to kill me for calling her that, LOL, offered to sleep over to be there for me. Well, things happened, full circle, I guess, LOL. However, I told her it was going to be a one-time thing because I don't want to rebound into a relationship or anything. I'm thinking of living the single life now, going to hit the gym harder than ever, destroy school, and get into a master's program in London. Move on and just focus on me. No more girls for a while. Also, I'm not sure if I will be allowed to update on the concierge situation since we're taking legal action. If I am allowed to, maybe I'll post what happened. Not too sure though. All in all, I appreciate everyone's response, even those who were quite harsh to me. I understand that you had my best interests at heart and I really appreciate that. Not sure when I'll be ready to date again, but I will take my time because from what I've read, I have a lot to learn. Thanks once again to everyone. Edit. You lot are right about me being a slut for sleeping with my friend. I accept that. It just happened and that was that. Sorry to disappoint y'all. Edit 2. I think I've said enough. See you flip on side. Now on to the next story. Story 5. My boyfriend keeps making cruel jokes about my disability income since we started talking about moving in together. Not sure if I'm 27 overreacting to BF's 30 joking. Hi all. I'll try to make this short. My boyfriend and I have been dating for about 9 months, have known each other for almost 2 years, and things have been okay. There are a few hiccups here and there, but we've mostly worked those out. My boyfriend works in an office and makes pretty good money, enough that both of us could live on, as he's always telling me unprompted. I, however, am on disability and have been ever since I turned 19. I've had little part-time jobs here and there, but nothing too high-paying or anything, as I would lose my disability. We never spoke much about how much either of us made or where our income came from until 3 months ago when he started talking about moving in together. A reason I don't date much is that I'm always ashamed to tell people where my income comes from, as my disability isn't exactly something you can tell from just looking at me. By the way, I've never asked him to pay anything for me. We often go Dutch when we go out or one of us treats the other. I live at home right now and have told him that I'm okay with moving in, but that I wouldn't be able to contribute as much as he would be able to. That prompted the serious talk about income. I told him how I got my money, and he was quiet for a long time. He said he would never have guessed, and now my weird schedule made sense. And we continued talking about moving in together. Since I thought everything was okay, I agreed, and we started looking for places. This is where things have started getting annoying and downright hurtful. We've seen a few places since we started looking, but mostly we have just been looking at places online. We'll be looking at his laptop, seeing a place, and starting to talk about what each of us wants or doesn't want. Sometimes, if I disagree with something he wants or doesn't want, he'll joke and say something like, "I'm not sure you should have much say about XYZ, as you won't be paying as much as I will," or "My money talks louder than yours and says this is what we should get," and then laugh and say, "You know I'm just joking. I care about your opinions because you'll be living there." It's happened twice as we've been looking at places. He's joked to our potential landlord that they shouldn't ask me any questions because the only thing I'm really doing is just putting my name on the lease/rental agreement. I have never felt so embarrassed in my life. So, I'll go off and look at the rest of the place and avoid him and the landlord. This is not the only thing, as he jokes about a lot of things, especially since he found out about my income. He'll say things like, "I'm so tired after working all day. I wish I could just sit around as you do." Or, "It must be nice to get to sleep in every day. I wish I could do that, but if I don't work, I couldn't take care of myself." And they all feel like little digs at me now. I've known my boyfriend for almost 2 years. He lived with his parents before we started dating, where he did not pay rent or help with bills, didn't do anything around his house, and his mother and father would go on and on about that, even though he had a job. He's also not good with saving, so even though he was living free at home, he did not have anything saved. I've helped my parents with bills and help around the house, and I have very small savings. Yet, he keeps talking down on me as if all I do is just sit at home all day, collect a check, and don't do anything with it. Believe me, if I could work regularly like him, I would be working. It just seems like he's gotten super snobby or something since, and it's been grating on my nerves. I've spoken to him on numerous occasions about this, but all he says is that I'm taking it too seriously and making a big deal out of nothing and refuses to talk about it any further. I've asked if he is fine with the fact that I don't work regularly, and he says he's fine with it and that of course he makes enough for both of us to live on, so it's not a problem. However, again, he'll throw in a dig and undo anything good he has said. This is the reason I hate dating and relationships. Because unless you've got some amazing job somewhere, people think you're just some slob or something, and it makes me feel so bad, like I don't deserve to be dating anyone. And while I've thought about leaving, I keep thinking I shouldn't leave because I won't ever find another guy who is okay with my income. More info in my mind. I never really saw anything changing between us with this knowledge because money never really was a problem with our relationship. I figured if things got serious, as they have, I'd have to tell him, and we'd figure things out together. He always seemed like such a sweet guy and never said anything bad or demeaning about disabled people or poor people or anything, so this really came out of left field for me. I never thought about how vulnerable my disability would make me, but then again, I've never tried to merge finances in life with anyone else, so I guess this was a learning experience. I also never even thought of it as abuse, to be honest. I just thought he was being oddly mean. He excuses his behavior by saying, "That's him. And if people don't like it, they aren't his people." And he can't help if people are sensitive. Because if this is verbal abuse, he's been doing it since I've known him. It's just never really been aimed at me. I guess I just let my thinking get in my way. Not to mention the few relationships I have had, they all fell apart once the income thing came up. I don't plan to move in with him until we've had a talk, and I'll see what comes of it. I don't think I could live with his constant joking all the time, because it's not a joke to me. It just makes me feel embarrassed and like I'm not a proper adult. I do plan to talk to him one more time and let him know I'm dead serious about him stopping these jokes because they aren't funny to me in any way. Edit. Thank you all for your comments, and to anyone I couldn't get back to. I've just got a lot on my mind to think about. After reading all these comments, some things have come to my attention. I think the situation is actually more serious than I thought it was. He was just mean when it came to joking, but apparently this is a sign of verbal and emotional abuse, and I just know I don't want to be in a situation like that. I'm going to talk to him and see what he has to say and go from there. Thank you all again. Update. I spoke to my boyfriend the day after I responded to a lot of you. I decided I was going to talk to him one more time and set a boundary about these jokes or tell him I wasn't moving in with him and that maybe we need to reevaluate the relationship. I told him I wanted to have a serious discussion, and he immediately asked if I wanted to break up with him because he figured it was coming. I was taken aback because I didn't expect that reaction. I didn't say anything at first, but then I told him that I wanted to talk to him about his jokes and honestly his behavior in general when it comes to people and making fun of them in such a mean way, especially when they asked him to stop. I also did a little reading on verbal abuse and abuse in general, and things were a lot more clear. So he listened to me and then told me that he didn't like people trying to change him. He said that his last girlfriend had tried to do the same, and she couldn't accept him for who he was. He thought I would be different because I was more understanding and fun. I'll admit that is probably one of my flaws, that I try to understand everyone's position about most things and give them far too many chances. There are exceptions, but for the most part, I will try to understand someone and work with him on it. I asked him if she, his ex, and the overweight friend were the only ones who had left him over this behavior, and he told me that he lost a lot of friends and that dating was hard because women tended to cut out pretty quickly. In his words, this happens because people are too sensitive and want him to change how he is. He seemed very stuck on being accepted as he is and angry about people trying to change him. I changed direction and asked him if he actually thought anything was wrong with what he said. I used my experiences specifically and told him about how I felt when we were looking at places, and he said what he said to the potential landlords. He, of course, said they were jokes and that he'd never think less of me because of how much money I made, because he kind of figured I didn't make a lot because of how I tended to do things. I asked him to elaborate, and he said how I was always on things like Groupon, using coupons at stores, or wanting to go out when places had specials or something, and he was never around anyone who needed to do that type of thing. So I told him that I did think he has a problem with people who earn less and don't live a similar lifestyle to him, and that maybe he just didn't see it. That sometimes we are trying to be good because we have these thoughts of how we should be on the surface and we try to follow them, but when it's closer to home, our real feelings come out because we're faced with it more. And I told him that was okay, but that I didn't think it would work for us, that he might be more comfortable with someone who makes the same amount as him and can contribute how he'd like. He interrupted me and told me he didn't want someone like that because he couldn't be himself around someone obsessed with money and material things. Not what I said, by the way, that they'd be too concerned with money, and he liked me because I wasn't that way. I kind of ignored that, but it kind of told me that he either doesn't want someone who has as much power in the relationship as he has, or he thinks women who want more / expect more of him are gold diggers or someone trying to take advantage in some way. I don't know. Anyway, I continued and told him that even if he felt they were just jokes, they were wearing on me and my self-esteem, and I couldn't live that way. I also told him that it's natural for people not to want to change when they've been a certain way for a long time, and so it seems right to us, but that change can be good, that maybe therapy could help with that. I told him that it's wonderful to be accepted for who you are, but if who you are is, well, jerkish, people are a lot less likely to accept you unless they are also jerks, and nothing good can come from a bunch of jerks getting together because they'll be toxic to other people as well as to each other. And I told him I think he's better than that he deserves much better, that any woman he truly loves deserves much better than being verbally abused and made to feel like they aren't as equal or worthy. He sat there and didn't say anything for a while. He just looked at me and sighed a lot. He finally said he was disappointed in me for wanting to abandon him because he thought we were true soulmates and he couldn't believe I was saying such abusive stuff about him. I was shocked he was calling me abusive because I didn't think I was being abusive by telling him why I didn't want to continue if this is how he will act and that the way he acts is not, well, good. Maybe I went a little far in saying anything about a future girlfriend, but I guess I wanted to impress on him that if his friends and partners keep leaving because of this behavior, everyone will keep leaving. The only partner willing to stay will be someone who dishes it just as well as they take it, and he knows he's actually very sensitive and wouldn't like that, or it'll be someone who lacks any self-esteem, and he'll make her feel even worse about herself until she breaks down, like I could feel myself getting to that point. And that's why I'm so angry and frustrated. Not only with the fact that he was now turning all this around to me being abusive, but that he still didn't really seem to get what I was saying about my feelings. It made me realize, yes, I need to leave this situation. And I do feel bad about it because I do feel like I'm abandoning him. But at the same time, it just doesn't seem like my feelings or anyone's are important to him. So why should I stay with someone who doesn't seem to get that his behavior isn't exactly such that gets people to stay in his life? I realized I probably wasn't going to get through to him, and the conversation itself had me shaking because I was upset and disappointed myself. However, looking back, I could see signs that this is who he is. Other people's feelings just don't mean a lot to him. In doing some soul searching, I realized that I stupidly thought he would change over time, but waiting on that is wearing on me, and our last conversation tells me that he doesn't see anything wrong with what he does, so it's unlikely he will change. He didn't seem interested in saying anything else besides that he was sorry I felt the way I did. I told him that I thought we needed to give up on things and find someone better for ourselves elsewhere. He didn't say anything, so I just left. A few hours later, I got a confusing text from him telling me that he hadn't seen who I was and that I had abusive tendencies. I didn't respond and just blocked him on everything. I'm sad things ended the way they did, but it was probably for the best. I'll either be good alone or I'll find someone who I work better with. And I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who commented on my last post, and sorry if I didn't get back to anyone. I've been quite torn up over this, even though it was my decision. I miss him more as a friend than a partner, but I don't think being friends would work out too well either, so I'm just leaving it now. Now on to the next story. Story 6. My childhood best friend's fiancé left me off their wedding guest list, but he thought I was coming when I told him she never invited me in the first place. The wedding almost got called off. Me, 32M, and my best friend, Alex, 32M, have been friends since diapers. We're basically family. After college, we both moved back home so we could live at home and get our feet underneath us. Alex started dating Stella, 35F, a lovely girl, around 4.5 years ago, and from the get-go, she seemed to politely dislike me. I'd say Levy. Alex and Stella moved across the country in 2021 after Stella earned a promotion at work. In 2022, Alex proposed. She said, yes, and they set a wedding date for the end of September 2023. I got a save-the-date card at the beginning of the year, and based on the conversations I had with Alex, assumed I would be in the wedding party, either as a groomsman or the best man, but never received any official confirmation from either of them. A couple months before the wedding, I saw that wedding invitations had gone out on social media and figured mine was en route. It never came. I waited a couple weeks, figured it might have just gotten lost in the mail before I checked in with him. I called Alex and had a brief conversation with him where he was clearly agitated and said he was dealing with a lot, would be incommunicado for the near future, to direct any wedding-related questions to Stella, and he'd call me when things cooled off. I called, texted, and emailed Stella several times over the course of a week, but she didn't respond to any of them. At this point, I figured I wouldn't be attending the wedding, and that things were really messed up for some reason between the two of us. Yesterday, a little over 3 weeks after our last conversation, Alex DM'd asking if I was free to chat. I jumped at the opportunity to get some answers, and after exchanging pleasantries, Alex jumped right into a spiel, saying that he knew I was super busy with work and dealing with a lot of personal stuff, but he'd love it if I could attend his wedding, even just as a guest, and wanted to know if there was anything he could do to help make that happen. I just blurted out that I'd love to but hadn't received an invitation. Alex stared blankly at me and said, "What?" And I just kind of verbal vomited out that I hadn't received an invitation. That was the reason I called him a few weeks ago, that I'd contacted Stella about it, but she never got back to me and left me on read, and that I had no idea what he was talking about me dealing with too much to be involved in the wedding. After a very pregnant pause, he said he needed to go sort things out and that he'd call me when it was done. My phone's blowing TF up since, with wedding attendees asking me WTF happened and why the wedding might be off now. My girlfriend has reaffirmed to me that I did nothing wrong, but I've had people from all sides saying I stuck my nose where it didn't belong and caused a stink, which is really effed with my head. Edit 1. After he DM'd me, we switched to video chat. Meant to include that. Whoops. Edit 2. I may not be able to respond to everyone's response, but I have read them all and appreciate each and every one of them. My girlfriend is also having way too much fun with this and is kindly giving me shit for doubting myself. Date 1. Alex and I texted Tuesday night/Wednesday morning. He said he was handling stuff and asked if I'd be free to talk Thursday afternoon with him and Stella, which I agreed to. This is just a rough summary, and I probably forgot some stuff. Frankly, I'm too mentally fried to weave a narrative RN, so it's just going to be bullet points. A couple of pieces of info about Alex to provide some context. Alex was raised fairly sheltered and religious until he was 18 when he went to college and opened up. As a result, he still has some real blind spots about certain things. Alex has mild to moderate OCD. It's managed with low levels of medication and maintenance therapy, which is one of the reasons he gets overwhelmed easily, especially from unexpected stressors, and weddings are chock full of those. Now, for the actual update, the wedding, it's still happening. I will be the best man, and I've been read in on all the shit I need to do. The person who is filling in for me, Matthew, 34M, one of mine and Alex's good friends who's also neurodivergent, is thrilled not to have to spend the day peopling and can instead party his ass off. As a result of this cluster shit, Alex, Stella/whoever parents are paying for the wedding will be comping me, plus GF's plane tickets and hotel stay and my best man tux. What was the main driver of this mess in the first place? Stella's pregnant. They found out a couple days after the wedding invites got sent out. Apparently, they were passively trying, then actively trying in 2022, but stopped and swapped back to heavy BC once the save the dates went out because Stella did not want to be pregnant on her wedding day. This led to several changes to the wedding, threw a bunch of other planning into disarray, sent Alex into an OCD hole for a couple weeks, which is why he was agitated when I called him, and why he needed time to get his head around it all and get the intrusive thoughts managed. And one of the reasons why Stella ignored/missed my messages/calls. Why did Stella not respond to my messages? Besides surprise pregnancy, Stella said that she's on her phone for work a ton and gets hundreds if not thousands of emails/texts/calls per day. She misses some stuff, especially since she didn't have my contact info saved. LOL. I also emailed her work email instead of personal email, which I don't have, and my own personal email handle is not my name. In the future, I was told to be more insistent in my communication with her to break through her everyday noise. Duly noted. What happened to my invite? Stella claims that she sent me one but must have sent it to my old address. I did move in March to my current residence and the save the dates were sent out in January. What did Stella tell Alex about me not being in the wedding? Apparently nothing. According to Stella, he either 1. Believed one of his intrusive thoughts was real when he was in his OCD hole. 2. He got confused when she told him one of her cousins with a similar sounding name to mine wouldn't be attending. Or 3. Some combination thereof. According to Stella, she always wanted me in the wedding. Why did Stella not contact me after I didn't RSVP back? She assumed there was something going on with me and Alex, and that we'd sort it out and he'd tell her. In the meantime, she was busy with work, wedding planning, and unexpected baby. How did a bunch of wedding guests find out about this mess? Alex called his mom for advice after our convo. Mom had church friends over. Church ladies overheard a good chunk of their convo. Church ladies are gossipy. Alex has spent a decent chunk of time the last couple days putting out fires, so to speak. After about an hour, Stella left to go deal with some wedding stuff and me and Alex chatted about some shit for a couple hours. Do I believe Stella's explanations? Kind of. The baby's real as far as I know. Confirmed by medical professional. She does have a cousin I know she's close with who has a similar sounding name to me and she does work from her phone a lot. But the rest of it just seems a little too convenient and I feel like I'm left with more questions than answers. Good news is since I'm in the wedding, I should have great access to figure out WTF is going on. I hope. Update 2. It's been a while. Sorry y'all for taking so long to get this update out. Been absolutely swamped at work putting out fires with my hair on fire for the last 6-ish months. So, here's the Cliff Notes version of the wedding and some post-wedding shit. Lead up was boring shit of emailing back and forth between me, Stella, other wedding people, venues, vendors, etc. Me and Alex had some pretty deep conversations over the week and reaffirmed the importance of our continued friendship. The first night we were there for dinner, especially considering both Alex's stepsister, Sam, 32F, and Stella's younger sister and Mo, Diana, 29F, were already staying there. We stayed at an Airbnb within walking distance of Alex's house. I went into event work mode pretty quick and that smoothed things out right quick and put Stella at ease. I spent most of the lead up to the wedding either at the ceremony/reception site doing liaison/setup, gaffing, running cables, setting up monitors, hanging and focusing, building shit, etc. or running around picking shit/people/shitty people up with Sam. My GF, Alice, 29F, was kind of miffed about the whole thing. She's never worked a wedding before, just attended. So, she expected it to be like 50% working, 50% vacation, when it ended up being more likely 90% me working and 10% vacation. She spent most of her time helping Alex out with wedding support-related stuff or gaming on my laptop when she gassed out or got too overwhelmed. Wedding was a fun mess. Tons of unrelated drama. Stella sure knows how to design a beautiful ceremony and plan a party. I'll give her credit for that. Didn't get to enjoy much of it since I was working the wedding with a few other people in the wedding party more than attending. But say Lavi ceremony took forever though. Felt terrible for all the bridesmaids who had to wear heels through that shit. Unfortunately, there was no gotcha moment or come to Jesus moment, where I got the full story as to why shit hit the fan. But based on what I observed while working the wedding, I think I've been able to piece together roughly what went down. Why wasn't I the best man? I think this had more to do with Stella's parents, Ken and Karen, 60s, than her, although she still doesn't like me. My main reasoning. Ken and Karen were paying for the majority of the wedding, more than Stella, Alex, and Alex's parents combined. Alex and Stella sketched out pretty early what they wanted the wedding to look like. Throughout the process, Stella made several significant changes out of the proverbial blue. Alex didn't really care all that much and just figured she changed her mind. He just somehow missed that most of these changes occurred after Stella either had a phone call or in-person meeting with her parents, which is on brand for him. Her parents were very standoffish towards me, to be expected, feelings mutual, and made a lot of frankly weird comments about Stella's younger, totally not a cokehead brother, Chase, 23M, oftentimes in comparisons between us that flattered him and kept insisting he was perfect best man material. Alex has barely met Stella's parents, maybe a dozen times over the last 5 years. Every time they visit for the holidays, Stella has them leave early for whatever reason, and Stella rarely initiates calls with them. Stella acts really weird around her parents. Around everyone else, she's a badass modern woman, but around her parents, she gets super meek. Her mom asked her to go drive to some specific store over an hour away to get her a specific food item in the middle of wedding planning, and she just did it without any protest and left the rest of the wedding party in a lurch. When she got back 3 hours later, her mom took like 2 bites then threw it away. If I hadn't seen these things with my own 2 eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. It was that bizarre. Lots of other innocuous that individually means nothing, but when combined together provide a decent amount of circumstantial evidence. So, here's what I think happened. Roughly, Ken and Karen wanted Chase to be the best man in the wedding. Alex really wanted me to be the best man. Rather than make a choice, Stella appeased both parties, telling them what they wanted to hear while making no actual decision. The longer it went on, the more complex the lying got. When Alex had his breakdown, Stella saw a way to get out from under her Gordian knot of lies by taking advantage of the crisis. Unfortunately for her, Alex came to his senses before the wedding, started asking questions, and when push finally came to shove, she chose her relationship over whatever the hell is going on with the family, much to their apparent chagrin. Why does Stella not like me? I have two main guesses here. One, I swear a lot. I tend to forget most people don't use the F word as a noun, verb, adjective, adverb, pronoun, preposition, conjunction, interjection, numeral, article, and determiner. Since I was working the wedding and I was on my best behavior and cut down on my swearing by a good 90%, which led me to noticing that anytime I swear, or anyone for that matter curses, Stella has a little grimace/cringe reaction. Stella herself also rarely curses. And if she does, it's something pretty small like hell or damn it, followed by a quick apology. It's probably exacerbated by the fact that in spite of my generally unprofessional behavior, I hold a fairly professional job. The dissonance can bother folks. 2. Politics. And before people freak out, I'm somewhere between a democratic socialist and socialist on the political spectrum. I am a far cry from conservative. But for Stella, that's not far enough left. As from what I can tell, she's either a tanky or tanky adjacent. This has been more or less confirmed to me based on her social media engagement relating to the major geopolitical events of the last 6 months or so. Probably exacerbated by the fact that my job involves working in geopolitics. So, I am part of the repressive imperialist Western system. And as it turns out, I'm not the only person in the wedding who isn't super fond of Stella. Found my flock, so to speak. Post-wedding shit. Alex and Stella had a healthy baby girl named Iris. Me and Sam are the godparents. Me and Alex have been talking a lot more. For whatever reason, he asks me for child care tips. Like, bro, I'm just as lost as you here. And I've set up a weekly gaming sesh where we're slowly slogging through BG3 with Sam and Matthew. As far as I know, Alex and Stella are in couples counseling, which seems to be helping from my vantage point. Stella was weirdly against it, but Alex pushed for it so he could be a better husband to her, and she relented. As far as I know, Stella's already back at work, and on most of her pre-baby schedule. Alex's stepsister Sam has been checking in on them periodically, and according to her, there's no major red flags. ATM, Stella actually texts/emails me stuff now. It's mostly baby pictures, but it's a step in the right direction, and I appreciate it. I send cat pictures in response. Hopefully, this is the last update. My life got far too interesting for that month, and with my current workload, I doubt I could mentally handle more drama. Now on to the next story. Story 7. My wife works abroad while I raise our 2 kids at home. I started meeting my childhood friend and almost had an affair with her, but my wife forgave me after I confessed everything. My wife and I are long distance. She works abroad. I take care of our sons, 4 and 3, and do our jobs. Originally, we lived with her, but our kids ended up put in a dangerous situation, and I didn't want that to happen again. Quitting her job wasn't an option in her eyes, so I moved to our home country with the kids while she stayed. She visits us a few times a year. I moved in with close family friends. It was a hard and painful decision. I had a lot of resentment over my wife prioritizing her job over our family. But I love her. I couldn't imagine not being with her. I thought about divorce, but we decided to try to work things out. The other woman was my friend when we were little kids. After my mother died, I left my hometown and moved in with my dad and didn't see that friend. But I stayed connected with some other people from that town throughout my life. And when I moved back home with the kids, I started visiting my hometown more to see my mom's grave and visit my old neighbors. When I met my old friend again, I was excited to see her, but I'm nostalgic for everything from my childhood. It started out innocent. I was just happy to have another connection to that part of my life. Anyway, she has a son, too, who is 6, and so we ended up taking our kids to the park together while we had a coffee and caught up. It was innocent, and I told my wife I'd reconnected with her, and my wife was fine with it. She jokingly asked if she should be jealous, But she didn't mean it. She trusted me, so I feel so terrible. We met up a couple times a month from then on. I don't really know when it lost its innocence, but I realized I started becoming infatuated with her. We'd hug every time we met up and before we left, and I would feel so wistful when she would hug me. She would start talking about how her ex mistreated her and her son, and I felt so protective. She started making comments like, "My son is so good with your sons. It's like they are brothers." And I talked to her about some of the stuff that bothered me about my relationship with my wife, and she sympathized. I realized that I enjoyed the attention, and I found myself entertaining fantasies that I was with her instead. I kept thinking about if I had never met my wife and had instead moved back home and reconnected with my old friend, and we'd somehow had our same kids only with each other. We both could have been happy and been spared so much pain. If I'm trying to be objective, she's a better match for me than my wife. She puts her kids first. She appreciates me for who I am. My wife does too, but I feel like me and the kids are always an afterthought for her. Even when she's home and spending time with us, she is always thinking about her job. My wife is a good person and she does good work, but her job traumatizes her, and she was already traumatized before she started it. She started doing her job to cope with her past, but she's also re-traumatizing herself over and over, and my kids and I pay the price. I'm not trying to justify my actions. I'm just trying to explain. My childhood friend was always complimenting me on my looks, how good of a dad I am, my physical strength. It's like she appreciated the unique things about me. And I feel like my wife loved me just because I was there for her, like she would have loved anyone who loved her, and I was just the only one who did. It wasn't always like that, but that's how it started to eventually feel with my wife being so distracted by her job all the time. I didn't really notice it until I reconnected with my friend and noticed the contrast. I should not have let things get that far. I know. But at first it was just an occasional thought, and I just brushed it off as intrusive thoughts and telling myself, yeah, everyone has inappropriate thoughts, but what matters is your actions. But I just let it go too far. In hindsight, some of our friendly banter was really more like flirting, and it was not appropriate. That's an action, not a thought. Anyway, today was a reality check. She said she wanted to talk to me about something serious without the kids there, so I let my other friend who I live with babysit and met up with her, and she basically confronted me with the fact that we obviously have feelings for each other and said I should leave my wife for her. But it was like immediately I realized the amount of lies I was feeding myself and her. I instantly felt so bad. I didn't deny having feelings, but maybe I should have. She kept insisting I think it over, and when she saw how upset I was, she said she'd let me think it over, then left. I should have told her, no, there is nothing to think over. I love my wife, and I'm not leaving her. But I didn't say anything. That, in itself, is weighing on me. I need to tell my wife. I know. I just don't even know where to begin. Next time she's coming home is October. I feel like this is the kind of thing to say face to face, but I don't want to wait that long. And I don't want her to come all this way to have a nice time and ruin it. I could leave the kids with my friends and go visit her. But on top of the money issues and logistical issues, even that thought makes me sick. I keep imagining her smiling and being delighted to see me, and then how devastated she's going to be when I tell her. I can't stop thinking about her face. I feel sick. I don't want to tell her at all and just never see my childhood friend again. I'm also mad at myself for letting my stupid fantasies ruin a friendship and a precious memory. But I know it would be wrong to keep seeing her and impossible to just be normal friends now. But I know honesty is the best policy. I owe it to her to be honest. I just don't know what to do. I feel so wrong and stupid. I don't want to tell my friends. I think one of them would be really angry at me for almost cheating, and the other might actually encourage me to leave my wife. I feel like I need someone to tell me what to do because I can't process. Edit 1. Okay. The comments are overwhelming, and I need to sleep. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to my friends about what's going on and, after being yelled at, probably see if they'll be able to watch my kids while I visit my wife and tell her what's going on. If not, I can probably ask a few other people. If not, then I'll just tell her over Zoom. I'm also going to text my childhood friend that I don't want to see her again and then block her. I'm not going to leave my wife. If she leaves me, I'm going to stay single. I'm not going to date my ex-friend. I will always love my wife, and I don't think it would be fair to anyone for me to date anyone else while I still love her. To stop from having to answer the same questions over and over, my wife is an aid worker. She doesn't do it for the money. She does it because she believes God called her to do it. I do gig jobs and sometimes construction. I choose to work more flexibly and spend more time with my kids. I put my wife through college. I'm not freeloading off her. I am kind of freeloading off the friend I live with, I'll admit that, but we're all happy with this arrangement. The reason I left with the kids is because we got carjacked at gunpoint. My wife changes location a lot, so living somewhere safe but still closer to her isn't really an option. It's either travel with her officially through her organization or stay put somewhere. I don't think my childhood friend originally intended to cheat with me, but I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Edit 2. Everyone telling me to get a stable job so my wife can come home. You misunderstand. You think my wife and I haven't spoken about this? She is never going to quit her job. She made that very clear. Her job is her priority. I promise you she's not doing it for the money. I'm not forcing her to do it by refusing to work more. If she said she would even consider quitting if I found a more stable job, I'd do that in a heartbeat. Anyway, I talked this over with my friends. They were understanding. The plan is to fly over and see my wife next weekish, but we still have to make arrangements. I thought about contacting my wife's boss to see if we could do a surprise visit, but it seems like it would be so cruel to show up and surprise her and make her happy to see me only to break her heart. So instead, I called my wife saying everyone is okay, but I have something bad to tell her that she should hear in person, and I'm going to fly out to see her. She said I should just tell her because otherwise she's going to worry about it the whole time. So I almost did, but then she said, "No, don't tell me. I want to see you." So I didn't. Update 1. A lot of people asked me for an update, which I will, but I have a couple of things to say first. First, I wanted to thank everyone who commented civilly, regardless of your opinion. I especially appreciated hearing from people who had been in a similar situation or in a similar situation to another person I mentioned. I wasn't thinking very straight at the time, and I don't think I thanked everyone properly, but it was very kind of you to take the time to share your perspective. The other thing, I should have said something at the time, but a lot of people bashed my wife, and I didn't defend her as much as I should have, so I'm going to set the record straight now. First of all, people were saying she was cheating on me, but she would never, ever do that. She is honest and loyal and a much better person than I am. Second, people were saying my wife is negligent and doesn't care about me or our kids. This is also wrong. She's very loving. Yes, she is busy with her job, but she says she thinks about us every moment. And when she is home, she spends as much time with me and the kids as she can. She does get distracted and think about things at work that stress her out, but that's because she sees things that get to her. It's not because she doesn't care about us. She's not like half the parents out there that ignore their kids because they're distracted by their phone. People were also bashing me in a way that I think was kind of over the top, but honestly, you can bash me but don't bash my wife. Me having problems in my relationship doesn't mean she deserves to be bashed. I actually showed the post to my best friend, and she pointed out that a lot of you were probably just being sexist. You attacked my wife and said she didn't care about me or our kids because she doesn't get to see us much. But my friend pointed out that there are a lot of jobs that mostly men do that mean they don't get to see the kids much, and no one says that they don't love their kids and need to quit. So for everyone who said my wife doesn't love our kids, would you say the same to dads who are in the military, truck drivers, work on oil rigs? Would you say that they're all definitely cheating on their wives or tell their wives that they should leave them? If not, you're being sexist. And for everyone who told me to get a better job so my wife can come home, would you say that to a woman who is married to a guy who is one of those jobs? For everyone saying me and my wife shouldn't be married or have kids because she's an aid worker, do you think there shouldn't be any aid workers? Or do you think no aid worker should be allowed to get married and have kids just because of their job? You realize a lot less people would be aid workers if it meant they couldn't have a family, right? You don't make any sense. Anyway, I saw my wife and told her everything, and we actually had a nice visit. She was glad to see me in spite of everything, and she insisted I not tell her anything bad until after she showed me something, which was confusing to me, but I agreed anyway. It was a little waterfall and it was beautiful. She said she visited the waterfall whenever she got a chance, and it reminded her of me, and she wished she could show it to me every time. I nearly cried when she said that. I almost couldn't even tell her after that, but I already told her I was going to tell her something bad, so I had to. Anyway, we sat there by it for a while until she said she was ready to hear my bad news. So as much as it killed me, I told her everything that happened. She tried to be calm and understanding, but I could tell she was hurt. I almost wished she would have yelled and slapped me, but she just thanked me for being honest. She asked what I was going to do. I said I wasn't going to stay in touch with my former friend either way, but I hoped she would forgive me and come home to us in October like she planned. She said I was already forgiven and asked me for more details about what exactly happened in my feelings, which I did my best to answer honestly. It was hard, though. I could tell she was getting more and more upset. Eventually, she just said, "Okay," and we walked back to her base without really talking at all. That night we talked more. She knows it's hard for me to live the way we do, and she just asked me again if I was sure I still wanted to be with her. I told her I knew she wasn't going to quit her job, but I talked about how one of the hardest things is that even when she comes home her mind is on her job, and it's hard to see how sad and stressed she always is. She said she'd bring it up in therapy and try to work on being present in the moment with her family. She kept pressing me on if there was anything else she could do better besides quit her job, and I told her how I felt about how sometimes it seems like she only loves me because I love her and I could be anyone. She cried, apologized, said it's not true, and told me as many specific things she could think of that she loves about me. I did the same for her. She said she was glad we talked and glad I was willing to keep working on our marriage because from the beginning, when I told her I had something bad to tell her in person, she just assumed I wanted a divorce. She said she's always worrying I'm going to leave her, but she's grateful for every day I don't. I promised her I don't plan to and told her I worry the same thing sometimes. It was a really good conversation. The other days I went to her job site with her for a bit and helped out with a few things. The local kids were teasing my wife about me, which was adorable. Things aren't perfect, but they're going to be okay. Also, I know a lot of people said that my wife should leave me because what I did was as bad as a physical affair, and confusingly, a lot of people said I did nothing wrong. I think it's somewhere in between. I did something wrong, but I did stop it before it got that far. And a lot of other people say I should divorce my wife, but I'm not divorcing her. She has her flaws, but she's also one of the best people I know. All of her flaws are because she's been through things that I can't even imagine. I chose to love her in spite of the things she can't give me. I will always love her. I'm not someone who can stop loving someone. Even if we divorced, I'd think about her and wonder if she was okay every single day. I can't be in a relationship with another person even if I wanted to because I'd never be over her. It wouldn't be fair to them. It's my wife or no one for me. Update 2. Hi. This is sort of an update of my previous posts in this sub. You can see them on my profile. The sub won't let me link them, but it's also a lot of other stuff to get off my chest. I made a post here a while ago. It was about how I realized I was in an emotional affair with my old friend while my wife was working in the Philippines. That issue is resolved. My wife forgave me. I haven't spoken to my old friend at all anymore, and I'm much more careful with my other female friends. However, some of the comments I got on my last posts have still been weighing on me, and my wife is home now, and she had a lot of big news that I want to get off my chest. First, the good news is my wife is pregnant again, and I'm happy about it in spite of everything. I know some people in my last post were asking if I was using protection to avoid bringing more kids into the world, and honestly, no, we didn't, and I didn't want to admit that for obvious reasons. I don't have any defense for that other than I'm stupid. The other major thing is that my wife probably has OCD. Basically, my wife realized she was late and probably pregnant a long time ago, but originally didn't tell me or take a pregnancy test. She said it was like there were two different people in her head, and part of her was screaming to go get things figured out, but the part of her that actually had control refused to do anything besides carry on as usual. She was too scared to take a pregnancy test and get proof that she was pregnant because she knew she wouldn't be allowed to go on her next assignment because of Zika virus. Basically, it was a lot of screaming at herself to do something about it before she finally got the courage to tell her therapist what was going on and actually take the pregnancy test. So even though she got pregnant in July, she hasn't had any kind of care or anything yet. Also, I guess she'd been hiding a lot of things from her therapist because she knew the therapist would make her take a break if she knew exactly what was going on in her head. So she wasn't honest with the therapist about how she felt compelled to do this job, how she felt when she wasn't doing it, etc. But she knew she needed to do right by her baby, so she finally told the therapist about the pregnancy, how she was having such a hard time doing anything about it, and then everything else came out. My wife described to me a bit more about how it feels to be in her head. It's not just that she thinks God wants her to do her job. The way she said it, basically she constantly thinks about all the bad things happening in the world, everything terrible that she's ever seen, every time she could have helped someone but didn't, even if she had a very good reason, and it makes her feel like she has to be working. She thought all these thoughts were God speaking to her, but she didn't tell the therapist that because she thought she wouldn't understand. She told me when she finally told the therapist, she basically asked her if she thought God was loving, and if so, why God would want her to constantly be thinking about things that made her miserable. That question finally made my wife open to accepting that she might have a mental illness rather than just having God talking to her. She is home now, a couple of weeks earlier than she was supposed to come, so she can get prenatal care ASAP and a more in-depth mental health assessment. I guess her therapist just thinks she has OCD but can't actually diagnose her or prescribe her medication or anything. I feel so bad for her and like I failed too. I feel like I should have tried to dig with her more about what she was feeling. My wife was more open with me than the therapist about her thoughts, and I feel like I knew something was wrong, but I assumed she was telling the therapist everything too and that the therapist was helping to the best of her ability. And as much as I'm happy that I hope this means things are going to be better now, I know my wife feels awful, and it makes me feel awful. Basically, she was really devout and religious growing up, but after some stuff happened to her, she kind of lost her faith and felt like if God existed, he didn't approve of her. I met her around then, and she was definitely in a very dark place for a while. She says that when she started having her thoughts about how she could fix the world, it was really reassuring because she thought she was finally getting her faith back. So it's been pretty crushing for her to not have that feeling anymore. I'm hoping her therapist is able to help her with that as well. My wife doesn't trust religious leaders anymore, so that makes it a lot harder for her to have to go through that. I believe in God, but I don't believe the same things as my wife and I'm less devout than her, so I don't always know what to say. I have told her I'm so sorry for what she's been going through and that I'm so proud of her for finally going to her therapist for help even though it was so hard. I told her I'm glad she was open with me and I hope she knows she can rely on me for anything she needs. And I told her I'm sure God knows how hard it was for her to get help and he's proud of her too. That made her cry, I think in a good way. Anyway, she's been home a few days now, and we're just taking things one day at a time. Prenatal appointments coming up next week, but we're still trying to figure out the OCD appointment stuff. So far, we've just been cherishing the family time as much as possible. The best news. My wife says when she's done with maternity leave, instead of going back to work, she might try to go back to school. She wants to get her master's and learn another language or two, and she says part of the reason for that is that she would have more choices in her assignments and possibly be able to work with refugees here in the US instead of traveling all over. That way, we could find somewhere to live permanently as a family. She says she's not sure yet and she wants to spend some time figuring things out, but I am hopeful for the first time in a long time that we might be able to be happy together as a family someday. I am really just hoping everything turns out positively. I feel bad for being happy since this is so hard on my wife, but I really hope it'll end up being a positive thing all around in the end. We've told my two closest friends who we live with about the new baby, but no one else yet except Reddit strangers. My best friend is almost as excited as me. She keeps coming to me talking about gender reveal party ideas, like randomly in the middle of talking about the election or whatever. We're keeping it from the kids for just a while longer because she's not very far along yet, and if God forbid the baby doesn't make it, we don't want the kids to be upset. So I keep telling her to be a little more subtle and she keeps forgetting, but luckily the kids have no idea what she is talking about when she does that. Anyway, that's my big news. Someone asked me for an update, and I wanted to clear the air and get some of the stuff off my chest anyway. Now on to the next story. Story 8. Fiancé secretly invited his ex to our wedding. Then I found out he had 5 fake social media accounts to stalk her, and was obsessed that she stayed pure after rejecting him. I, 23F, am getting married in January and just found out my fiancé, Mark, 25M, fake name, invited his old situationship to our wedding without consulting me. For context, Mark and I met on a dating app 2 years ago after he broke up a relationship. To be honest, it's quite confusing what he and Tracy, 22F, had. They met because of a mutual friend and started to develop feelings for each other. Mark told me they never dated and slept together, but it was more than friendship. Until today, he keeps her love letters, gifts, and talks about her. Tracy and him tried to stay in contact after the breakup, staying friends, but she ghosted him after finding out we started to date. From what I saw in her social media, she's in a relationship, so I'm not worried about her trying to get with my fiancé again. They haven't been in contact for 2 years, but he still has her number and email. I found out about him inviting her after I checked again our guest list and finding her name. I know Tracy is not a threat to our relationship, but Mark inviting her behind my back makes me feel bad about our whole wedding. He told me he doesn't feel anything for her, yet he made sure to send her an invitation. This is probably me being insecure, but my fear of him not getting over her is slowly creeping inside my heart. I don't want to lose him. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. He's probably not over her, especially since they were never a thing. For him, she might be the one that got away. If I were OP, I would have a very serious talk with him. OP. I don't get why he is not over her, especially if they were never a thing. From what Mark told me, he was the one who didn't wanted a relationship since Tracy just started life. Comment 2. He went behind your back to invite someone whose love letters he's kept. The fact he didn't talk to you about it is a red flag. If having her there is more important to him than you being comfortable at your own wedding, then you might need to postpone the wedding. She might not be a threat to your relationship, but it sounds like your fiancé's feelings are a threat. OP. I don't know why he is not over her even after 2 years of no contact. I know Tracy is part of his past, his story, but it's been such a long time. Comment 3. Tell him you don't want her there and that's final, and he better resend the cancellation or you'll have to rethink the marriage because starting a married life by going behind your back is a no-no. TBH, you need to not stubbornly hold on to someone you can't trust, and you can't trust someone who does things behind your back. OP. Her going to the wedding doesn't make me uncomfortable since I know she won't do anything. The problem is my fiancé and the fact he invited her to the wedding without notifying me. If Mark wanted her there, fine, but I just hate the fact he didn't told me beforehand, and it's making me think he lied about getting over her. Comment 4. Why do you keep saying, I know she won't do anything? If you can't trust him not to do anything with an old fling, you should not be getting married. P. Tracy has a boyfriend and is expecting. Also, she was the one who blocked him everywhere after finding out we were dating. Update 1. October 19, 2024. After reading the comments and talking with some friends, my heart finally understood Mark never really got over Tracy. In the beginning, I was in denial, but I went out with Tom, 24M, his best friend of years, to understand what really happened between them. From what he told me, Tracy and Mark met because of some friends in common. She just got into the university and was 17 at the time, while Mark was already almost graduating. They stayed friends for 2 years and feelings started to blossom. Mark was already working while she was still in college. He only wanted to formally date her after her graduation, so it was never a thing, even though they shared love letters, gifts, and shared almost every holiday together. Tom told me everyone from their old friend group thought they would marry since they were so sweet together, so their breakup was really unpredictable. Tracy was the one who broke up with Mark due to their religious values not lining up, as she wanted to save herself until marriage. In the end, they decided it was better to go separate ways and maybe try again after a few years. But after me and Mark started to date, Tracy realized that it was pointless to wait for him and started to see other people too, so she blocked him on everything except email just to have a clean beginning. In the end, I finally realized Mark is just hopeful that Tracy would come back to him due to their talks of trying again after a while. It honestly hurts so much, as I loved him so much. I still didn't confronted him since I'm still shaken up, but I don't know if this marriage will happen. I am going to update once I calm down and confront him. Update 2. October 25th, 2024. It's been a while since the last update, and I'm here to announce the wedding has been called off. My parents are the one canceling everything for me. It's like I returned to my childhood when mom and dad had to solve my problems. I confronted Mark after talking with Tom and made him aware of everything I've been dealing. His reaction at the beginning was dismissive and was almost as if he was trying to escape from the situation. In the end, Mark said he never loved someone like Tracy because it was pure and innocent. She reminded him that not everything is about carnal desire, and in the darkest moments of his life, Tracy was like a sunlight. Hearing the man you love admitting how much he loved another woman is so hurtful. During the talk, I started to cry, bawling my eyes out. Mark had the audacity to say he loves me, but it's a different kind of love. I asked why he invited her to our wedding and he was speechless. Why he had to throw away our future for something in the past. This hurts so much. Mark told me he knew Tracy didn't block him on email since he was the one who helped her get her first job and a lot of professional stuff was also involved. This is how he was able to send her our wedding invitation, but he meant no harm. When I asked what he meant with this, Mark just said he wanted to make her watch us together and realize what she lost because he was hurt that Tracy was pregnant and not married. The moment Mark mentioned about Tracy's pregnancy, a red alarm started to echo in my head. How did you know about her pregnancy? You said she blocked you everywhere. I could see panic in his eyes as he started to stutter. In the end, I made him give me his phone and I found out more than 5 accounts to stalk Tracy. My stomach felt sick and the urge to vomit was overwhelming. In the end, I decided to call off the engagement since he was a creep. Mark threw himself on the floor asking for forgiveness and saying he loves me, just in a different way compared to Tracy, and was just hurt that she gave herself to another man while he begged her countless times for sex. This made me feel even more disgusted with him because he felt entitled to her virginity and body. I left without taking even a bag with me. Everything is just too much. I can't believe I spent 2 years loving a stalker. A man-child. Oh, I also told Tracy everything. In his accounts, I don't know if she saw my messages, but I hope she does. The jealousy I once felt for her transformed into pity, as no woman should go through what Mark has done. Mark wants to meet up with me and doesn't want to break up, but I'm just so tired. Update 3, October 26, 2024. I think this is my last update since I've already met up with Tracy and talked about what happened. Me and her met at a cafe and in the beginning, I was really nervous as I didn't know what was her reaction because her reply was only, "Hi, let's talk over a cup of coffee." When I was waiting for her, I could feel my back sweating and overall lots of emotion. Tracy arrived and I finally understood why Mark was so obsessed with her, as she is definitely one of the most beautiful women I saw. She's pretty on the pictures, but personally, she looks better. Tracy said hello to me and asked if I'm willing to go to her house to talk since being outside for too long makes her really tired. We ordered some coffee to go and it was super awkward. So now let's talk about what she told me. First of all, she apologized for being the reason why now I'm single, which I assured her is not her fault. Tracy said she received the invitation but was simply not interested in participating in our wedding, as she was already in a happy relationship and it is pointless to see a person from the past. With the story Tom and Mark told me, I got curious and asked about them staying friends, as it sounded like she wanted to stay with him after the breakup and it's the polar opposite of her behavior. Tracy was extremely uncomfortable with this question, but still explained to me why. She said that in the beginning she was really in love with Mark because he was her first love. She described him as a protector, someone trustworthy, handsome, and kind as he always showered her in gifts and travels. Everything was fine and sweet, but over time Mark started to beg her for sex so much to the point of her pretending to be sick just to avoid him. She just didn't want to sleep with him and had some sort of blockage, like a sixth sense telling her to not do this. She was sick and tired about all of this and used the fact that her parents are extremely religious to justify why sex was off the chart. This led to a fight which Mark never told me and them breaking up. But 2 weeks after, they started to talk again as she felt in debt with him, as he helped her get a job in a prestigious company and he spent a lot of money on her with trips, foods, and presents. One of the gifts was a Rolex for her 18th birthday, which made me mad since he never spent so much money on me. So when Tracy found out me and Mark was seeing each other, she felt relieved and finally had a proper reason to block him everywhere since he was still sometimes hinting about them sleeping together. In the end, I told her that in the entire relationship Mark would sometimes talk about her, and in the beginning it was kind of weird, but I just brushed it off since she was part of his story. Oh, I also talked about Mark's numerous accounts, and in the beginning she didn't believe me, but I showed her the accounts I knew, which was creepy since they all had female names, followers, and pictures. All of them looked real. Her account is public, so I asked Tracy to make it private. She made a new account with her Korean name and deactivated the old one. We had fun and became friends. She is a really sweet person, and I saw how her boyfriend treated her like a queen. I'm happy she found love and got rid of Mark. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. Sounds like everyone dodged the bullet that was Mark. OP. It wasn't a bullet. It was a nuclear bomb. Comment 2. I really hope she takes Mark stalking seriously. It's very alarming the stuff he has been doing. I'm genuinely afraid for this woman. He's become obsessive and it can't lead to anything good, especially if he starts spiraling after your breakup. Comment 3. I'm so glad you told her. Pregnant women with crazy stalkers get killed at an alarming rate. I can't imagine how awkward and awful and difficult that whole situation and conversation must have been for you. I'm really proud of you for talking to her and showing her all their accounts so she could protect herself and have all the information now. At least whatever else she chooses to do and whatever else happens, you know you've done what you could to protect another vulnerable woman. That speaks huge volumes to your character and personality and general grace/class. Overall, you are going to find someone amazing who truly loves you and matches that upbeat, dignified, and character-driven vibe you have. Best benefit smile. I just know it. I hope you post an update on 3 years. Madly in love and hugely successful. Now on to the next story. Story 9. Gave birth to twins and gained weight. My MIL kept commenting and gave me a weighing machine as a birthday gift. I lost it and left with the babies. Now my husband wants me to apologize. Recently, I gave birth to twins, and obviously that has led to a bit of weight gain. I've spoken to the professionals, and they have assured me that this is completely natural and normal after a pregnancy, especially after twins, and soon enough with a proper diet and regular exercise, I'll be able to come back to my original size. To be honest, I'm not even very concerned about that, since I used to be really thin earlier and I think putting on a bit of weight has been good for me. Besides, right now my primary goal is to be a good mother to my children, no matter what weight I am at. But I don't think my mother-in-law agrees with it, since she has made it very clear that she doesn't want me at this size right now. Agnes, my mother-in-law, used to be a model, so she's pretty conscious about her appearance, and that's great. I find it wonderful that even at her age she always takes great care of herself, but for her to expect the same of me, especially after I have given birth to twins, I think that's a bit unrealistic. And I was really upset for the past couple of weeks because she kept insisting that I needed to lose weight. I was getting annoyed by my husband's family anyway because they kept visiting every other day, and my mother-in-law had practically made a home in our house, so this meant that I barely got any alone time and I was forced to entertain guests all day long for the past 3 weeks. I tried to be polite about it, but my husband felt that it was normal for his family to want to come over all the time since his family loved him and they couldn't believe that he was a father now, so they wanted to meet the baby as soon as possible as well. I could understand that his family was excited, but I feel like it shouldn't be the norm to keep visiting a woman who has just given birth since I'm honestly just exhausted right now. Anyway, I was pretty annoyed by the fact that Agnes was visiting every day already, and instead of helping me out, she would expect me to do everything around the house, and she thought that she was doing me a favor by looking after the kids instead. I thought it was kind of unfair since I was the one who was their mother, so if she really wanted to help me, she should have taken care of the other chores and let me look after my babies. That was bad enough as it is, and on top of that, she just kept taking pot shots at me about my weight. The rest of my husband's family found it funny, but I did not, and neither did my parents, who told me that I had to stand up to these people and make sure that they didn't behave this way with me. The problem with me is that by nature I'm a really non-confrontational person, and I find it very difficult to talk about what's bothering me. But after my parents visited me, I decided to tell my husband that I was not fine with his mother making an issue of my weight so publicly, and neither was I fine with her or his family visiting us every day. That led to an argument since he believed that I was being unreasonable. He said that I'm not very close to my family, which is why they didn't visit that often, and it was kind of true, But another reason that they didn't visit that often was because I had been very, very clear that I needed some time to myself with the babies before I was ready to entertain guests. I tried to explain to him that these frequent visits from his family were making me irritable and I was exhausted from dealing with them, but he turned around on me and made it sound like I was being selfish, and I am not really in a condition to keep fighting and arguing, so I let that one go and dropped the argument, even though I shouldn't have, because I guess that's what led to this incident that took place a couple of days back on my birthday. I had specifically told my husband that I did not want a birthday party. I just wanted to spend the day alone with him and the kids, and I thought that since it was my birthday, he would respect it, but unfortunately, that's not how the situation played out. I spent the morning at my parents' place since they had invited me for birthday lunch, and that's a ritual that we follow every year. Usually, my husband also accompanies me, but this year he said that he was feeling a bit under the weather and that he wanted to stay home. Around the evening when I finally came back home, my husband had invited his entire family and a bunch of our friends to the house to surprise me. This was exactly what I didn't want, but since they were already here, I decided to put on a happy face and pretend that I had the energy to deal with this. I was really tired and I just wanted to nap, but after I had cut the cake, Agnes told me that it was time to unwrap the presents, and even though I told her that I wanted to get some rest, she insisted that I do it and I open hers first. I was too tired to put up a fight, so I did what she asked just to get it over with, and I completely flipped out when I unwrapped her present to me and realized that she had given me a weighing machine. For the past couple of weeks, ever since I had given birth, I had found my husband and his family increasingly more annoying to deal with, but this was just the last straw for me. Agnes had been the worst of all, constantly bringing up how much weight I had put on and that I had to shed it off all quickly, and this was what finally tipped me over the edge. I started freaking out at her and I really gave her a piece of my mind. I had stayed quiet for long enough, but once I started yelling at her, I just couldn't bring myself to stop and let it all out. I told her that she had no business talking about my body, especially after I had given birth to the grandchildren that she constantly came over to see without even bothering to ask if I would be okay with it. Then I yelled at her for a bit about how she had become an absolute nuisance to deal with, since she never helped me out whenever she came over and expected me to do all the menial tasks while she got to play with the kids that I had carried for 9 months. I said a lot of other things as well before I asked her to get out of my house and kicked her out of the party. And I also told my husband's family that after this party, I did not want them visiting me at all until I'd specifically invited them. I was absolutely furious and I did not care in the slightest about what they thought of me. I just wanted them all to leave me alone with my babies. After yelling at them, I didn't even bother speaking to my husband and just went to the bedroom with the babies and went to sleep. I did wake up quite a few times after that, but my husband was nowhere to be found. I was kind of worried, but I was also really upset, so I did not even call him. It wasn't until the next morning that I finally saw him again, and when I asked him where he had been, he told me that he had spent the night at a friend's place because after my outburst, he did not feel like staying with me. He seemed upset, and I felt a little bad about my behavior as well since I had really insulted him and his family the night before, but I had been pushed to the edge, so I couldn't say that it was all my fault. Anyway, I thought that we could discuss it and talk it out, but instead he told me that his mother was really upset about everything, and the worst part was that now both he and Agnes expected me to apologize to her for my behavior because she was an elderly woman and she had never been humiliated like that before. They also felt like I had overreacted since she was only trying to look out for my health. So here's a couple of things about Agnes. She's just 54, that doesn't count as elderly at all, at least not in my books, and she has always been very weird about people's appearances, very judgmental and snarky. In fact, sometimes I feel like the only reason she was so nice to me before I got pregnant was because I fit her idea of what an attractive woman should look like. Like I said, I was really naturally skinny and she had complimented me on that several times. If I'm being honest, it feels like she's obsessed with being thin, and maybe that has something to do with the fact that she used to be a model in her early 20s before she became a mother, but I'm not a model and neither am I planning on becoming one anytime soon, so I don't understand why I have to be that thin as well. Also, if she really was concerned about my health and well-being, then she wouldn't have put me in a position where I had to entertain guests all the time without any help and do all the work around the house while she just played with the kids. She would have actually done something to make sure that I wasn't under a lot of stress and would have at least helped me out around the house. In fact, even with the kids, she would literally just play with them, but when it came to feeding them or changing the diapers, she would call for me. So I wasn't buying the fact that she was only looking out for my health, since then she would have actually done something to help and not just nitpick at my weight. And if my doctor thinks that I'm at a healthy weight, then I don't understand why she thinks that her opinion matters more. So when my husband told me that I had to apologize to Agnes because she was really upset, it really rubbed me the wrong way. He had already screwed up after I had given birth by never bothering to think about what I was going through and forcing me to constantly put up with his family. But I had done it all with a smile on my face because I wanted to make it work with him. After the party, though, I had realized where his priorities were, and it was a bit of a reality check for me that I desperately needed. It was evident that for him, his family came first and I came second, and I wasn't ready to deal with that anymore. So I didn't even fight with him when he said that he wanted me to apologize to Agnes. I just quietly got up and went to my bedroom and started packing my stuff. He didn't bother to follow me. He stayed in the living room, and after a while, when I was done packing, I decided to take the kids with me and go live with my parents. I could have left without saying goodbye, but I decided to tell him exactly where I was going, and I said that if he wanted to be a mama's boy, then he was free to do so, but it was unfair of him to expect me to put up with his family. I told him that he had been really disrespectful towards me and what I wanted, and the fact that after the party he had just left and the kids on our own showed us exactly how little he cared for us. So now I wanted him to contact me only when he was serious about his family, and I meant the family that he had chosen, not the one he was born in. He didn't say much to me, only that he would expect me to let him come visit the kids whenever he wanted. But unless I apologized to Agnes and the rest of the family, he had no intention of making things right with me. So I could live with my parents for as long as I wanted to, but he was not going to tolerate this kind of behavior. And then I left, and for the past 3 days, I've been staying with my parents. They know the situation and they think that I should think about getting a divorce, but right now I'm not really sure what to do because if this has been a common occurrence with my husband, I wouldn't have thought twice before leaving, but that's the catch. We have been together for almost 6 years and married for 3, and he has never behaved like this. He has always been very attached to his family, especially his mother since his father was always too busy for him, and their relationship had only become stronger after my father-in-law passed away last year. That had never been an issue for me, though, since he had always treated me well. This change in his behavior that has taken place after he became a father, that's what I don't understand. It feels like he doesn't care about me at all, even though during my pregnancy he had treated me like I was the Queen of England, and this is what I'm constantly bumping up against, because even if I want to leave him for his behavior right now, I can't stop thinking about the fact that he never used to be like this before, and it might be crazy, but I've been considering the fact that maybe I'm actually the one at fault here. I've heard about plenty of cases of postpartum depression where women become increasingly irritable and have bouts of anxiety and stuff, so maybe I can't see that I'm being unreasonable, but he can, and maybe he's right, but at the same time, given the circumstances, I hardly think that my anger is unjustified. If I speak to my friends or my parents about this, I'm sure that they are going to be on my side, so that's going to be a little pointless. And so I've come to Reddit to ask for help so I can make sure that I'm not being selfish and unreasonable like my husband believes and that I actually do have cause to be mad. So, AITA for kicking my mother-in-law out for talking about my weight and telling my husband's family that I don't want them visiting me right now? Update 1. Hi everyone. So it has been 2 days since I posted and I've been really conflicted about what to do because most people in the comments said that I shouldn't reach back out to him and that I should speak to a lawyer immediately. And I told my parents about it. They suggested the same thing as well and put me in touch with an attorney, but it just didn't feel right for me to file for a divorce before at least giving him one last chance to at least explain himself. I was about to contact him, but thankfully he came to me himself. Now, we were not exactly able to make up, but at least we had a discussion last evening. He came by to see the kids, and it was very awkward, but the baby seemed happy enough to see him. He played with them for a while and then he started talking to me. Since I had stayed in the room, my parents had the good sense to go to their bedroom and leave us alone as soon as he came over in case we wanted to discuss anything. Anyway, both of us were much calmer yesterday and were able to actually have a dignified and civil discussion rather than just one of us walking away angrily. I told him that his recent behavior had made me feel very confused because so far he had always shown great care for my feelings. But right now it felt like it didn't matter to him. Felt like he only cared about his family and nothing else. Not even me. It was very difficult for me to take it because I was the mother of his kids. I felt like that demanded a certain amount of respect and care. I also told him that the way Agnes had behaved with me and the way she had been pushing me to lose weight just 3 weeks after I had given birth to twins was ridiculous, and he should have taken a stand for me instead of defending it. He was silent for a couple of minutes, and then he said that he wanted to apologize for not taking a stand for me when it came to Agnes. He was just very confused, but he had to come to the realization that his mother had been wrong for constantly pushing me to lose weight. Apparently, the night that I had kicked her out of my party, she had called him later on and she had been sobbing on the phone, which is why he had felt so terrible about the way I had behaved with his mother and thought that I should apologize to her. But then he had thought about it for a while and realized that Agnes actually had been quite pushy about the weight thing and she had brought it upon herself, so maybe I didn't need to apologize for it. And he had to tell me that he had spoken to Agnes and she was mad, so she wouldn't be saying to me anytime soon, but he wanted to say that he was sorry. He also told me that he was sorry for not realizing this earlier. He had genuinely thought that Agnes only cared about my health and that's why she wanted me to lose weight, but giving me a weighing machine and forcing me to open it in front of that many people was humiliating and she shouldn't have done that. So I was glad that at least he had come to his senses regarding his mother and was apologizing for it, but that was not all that I wanted to talk about. We also needed to talk about the fact that he had not treated me as well as I deserved to be lately, and by that I meant the fact that he had continued to constantly force his family's presence on me, even though I had made it very clear that I wanted to be on my own for a while with just him and the kids since I was exhausted, and that meant both emotionally and physically. I guess I had mentioned in my original post that I had brought it up with him earlier as well, and he had argued with me, calling me selfish for wanting to keep him and our kids away from his family. I didn't want to drag out that fight, so I dropped it, but since it had become a bit of an issue in our relationship, I brought it up once again. This time I had no intention of dropping it until it was sorted out. He had apologized about the thing with Agnes, but here he told me that he did not think he was wrong. Apparently, his family was really excited that he had become a father, and it was a huge deal for everyone. That's not very surprising because right from his childhood he has kind of been the darling of his family, and that has meant that I have also been showered with a lot of love and affection by them. But whenever they would come over in the past 3 weeks, it would only be me who would have to sacrifice time with my babies to entertain them and occasionally cook for them, and even though it might not have seemed like a lot of work to him, it took a toll on me. And I told him that it was not fair since neither he nor his mother had been of any help to me. Even though he had started working from home, he barely did any of the household chores anymore because he was always busy with the kids, and that responsibility fell on me. As for Agnes, I have already said that she never did anything around the house and one came over to play with the kids and didn't even help me out with changing them and stuff, so I was pretty upset about that as well. Here though, he said that he could understand that it had become a lot of work for me, but it was unfair of me to expect him to tell his family that they were not allowed to come over at all. All of them were very excited, and he did not want a squash, which is why he had argued with me. And I'm not very close with my family apart from my parents, so my relatives had only video called me to congratulate me and see the babies but hadn't visited so far. Part of the reason for that was that I had specifically instructed them not to come over right now and that I would tell them when I was ready to have visitors. I tried to explain to my husband that no matter how much they loved us, it was very important to have boundaries as well, but he refused to understand what I was getting at. He just kept insisting that his family was doing this out of love, not just for him but also for me and the babies, and I couldn't overlook that since that would be disrespectful. They were a very close-knit family, and since I had always known it, he didn't understand why I was making a big deal of it right now. After one point, it started feeling like we were just talking in circles, so I told him that there was clearly no point in discussing this further. We hadn't been able to come to a conclusion about this problem that we were facing since he strongly believed that he was right and I think that I am right. So I told him that I needed some more time to think about what I wanted to do right now and that until then I would be staying with my parents. As of now, I have put each and every thought of getting a divorce on hold because I really want to do right by my kids, and at this moment I'm not sure what that would mean. A divorce is a big deal, and once I get involved, I can never go back, so whatever I have to do, I have to think about it very carefully and I don't want to make a mistake. This is why I have decided that I'm going to take my time and talk about this to my husband a couple of times more, and if we are still not able to come to a conclusion that works for both of us, then I might, but I'm treating that as a last option right now. Update 2. Hey, so 2 days ago my husband visited me, and I'm still thinking about what I want to do. But a couple of hours ago I did receive a text from Agnes, and that was quite surprising because she was actually apologizing to me. Of course, the tone was very passive-aggressive, and it was very obvious to me that she didn't really want to apologize, but she still did. Even if it was just for the sake of maintaining a civil relationship, she did. She told me that she had heard from her son that I had left home with the kids, and she knew that she was part of the reason that I had done this, so she felt like it was her responsibility to try and make this right. Personally, I don't agree with her. This is between me and my husband, and maybe she was a part of the reason why we had a fight in the first place, but she can't exactly help us sort this out. Anyway, she said that she really didn't want us to separate because that might not be the best move for the kids. Again, I can't agree with that because I think if we separate right now it might be better for them in the long run because they'll never have known us as a couple in the first place. I think that's a better alternative than sticking together, being toxic for a couple of years, and then traumatizing both our children before we eventually part ways. Anyway, I'm not thinking about a divorce right now, so it doesn't actually apply. Regardless of that, Agnes apologized and said that if this helped the situation, she would be glad to say that she was sorry about how she treated me. Even though she is still going to maintain that she was only trying to look out for my health and make sure that I didn't compromise my well-being. She claimed that he came from an era where being skinny was considered the healthiest, and maybe she was mistaken, but that's what she had been raised to believe, and she had been imposing on me, which was wrong. If I'm being frank, her apology was all over the place and it was kind of contradictory in itself, but hey, at least I received one, and that's something to think about. I'm not sure if my husband had put her up to this or not, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, my relationship with my husband does not depend on her apology. I replied to Agnes and told her that it was fine, that I forgive her, and I'm still thinking about what I want to do about the situation with my husband, but I'm thankful that she took the initiative to apologize to me. But yes, I still have no idea what to do, so some advice would be greatly welcome. Update 3. Hey, it has been 2 weeks since I left home, and for the past 2 weeks my husband and I have been talking about everything back and forth. At first, he would only visit to see the kids and ask me if I had changed my mind, and I would say no, and then we would have another argument about who was being selfish. But both of us got pretty exasperated after one point. It got really annoying, so I just told him that maybe it would be for the best to just end it and move on with our lives since we were obviously never going to be able to work this out. I think that was about 10 days ago, and when I said that he got really quiet and asked me if that was really what I wanted. And that forced me to really think about the situation, whether that was what I wanted or not, and honestly, I didn't. What I really wanted was for him to understand me, to apologize to me, and to make everything right again. That was what I really wanted, and that's what I told him that day. He told me that he wanted the same thing as well because at the end of the day, we really loved each other. We had been together for 6 years. We had kids together now, and I don't know, but this seems like something worth fighting for. That day he told me that he was going to come back the next day after work with a clearer head, and we would try to sort things out because obviously if both of us wanted to make it for each other, there was no reason for us to get a divorce. And I decided to do the same, to think about everything with a clearer head and keep an open mind to try and understand him instead of trying to defeat him just so that we would be able to make this work. After that, he started visiting every day and there was a lot of explaining, a lot of listening, some arguing, some apologizing, and a lot of reassurance. 2 days ago, we felt like we had finally been able to sort things out, and it was really relieving because I did not want to leave him. He promised me that he would tell his family, and especially Agnes, that right now it was not the perfect time to visit us so frequently and that we needed our own space, and I would apologize to the rest of his family for my outburst the other day at my party. We have also promised each other that from now on it's going to be us against the problem and not us versus each other, since that's clearly not going to lead us anywhere and it's only going to hurt each other. We don't want that, and we definitely don't want to hurt the kids, so we're going to try and be better partners so we can eventually be better parents. I'm going back home with him tomorrow, and my parents are also pretty happy about the way we were able to deal with this, so I guess all's well that ends well. Thank you so much for all the advice. Now on to the next story. Story 10. Parents took my twin sister to Hawaii after graduation, leaving me behind. But a woman gave me $50,000 while they were gone, and my family freaked out when they found out. So, for context, a few weeks ago, my sister and I graduated from high school, and in the fall we'll be leaving for college. Alex is my twin sister, and I have to admit she's always been better than me academically. I've never really been one for books and have been more interested in sports. I bagged a football scholarship recently, and I think it's a pretty big deal. But my parents only cared about the fact that Alex was valedictorian, and they took her to Hawaii to celebrate, while I only received a card saying congratulations. And now, they actually expect me to share the gift that I received from another member of the family with her because she's throwing tantrums. So, the day after we graduated, my parents asked her what she wanted as a gift, and they would get it for her because she had earned it. This conversation took place right in front of me, and they did not bother to ask me anything, which was not surprising because they had always been partial towards Alex. Then she thought about it for a few minutes and said that she wanted them to take her and a couple of her friends to Hawaii as a gift. My parents agreed instantly, and Alex went to her room to celebrate and tell her friends. While she was in her room, I asked my parents if I was going to go with them or not because I was honestly not sure. Usually, when we are on family vacations, they do take me with them, but since this was a gift for Alex, I wasn't sure if my presence was required or was going to be appreciated by Alex because she doesn't really like me much and I'm fine with that. I'm not really a fan of her either because even though we are twins, she is very different from me. She's spoiled, arrogant, and is mostly really disrespectful to everyone. And nobody who went to school with us likes her. It's just her gang of cronies who seem to think she's perfect, but I think it's just because they are just like her as well. Anyway, when I asked my parents if I would be coming along with them, they had to think about it for a while, and I instantly knew that the answer would be no. Because if they had to think about it, it couldn't be because they were willing to take me with them. They had probably already decided against it and were just thinking of a way to tell me. After a few seconds, my mother spoke to me and said that since this is a gift for Alex, it would be unfair to take me with them because then it would just become a family vacation. I pointed out the obvious that my parents were going along with her, but they said that they were only going with her because Alex wanted it and they were pretty sure that she wouldn't want me because even they were aware of the fact that we didn't really get along. After that was made clear to me, there was nothing more to say, so I went back to my room, and I just felt bad for myself because even though I have not achieved anything great academically, I think a football scholarship was worth a celebration as well. But my parents did not seem to care about me or my achievements, and on top of that, they were willing to leave me home alone for an entire week while they were gone, and Alex would get to celebrate with her friends in Hawaii. I was miserable for one full day until I realized that my family being gone for 1 week would mean that I would have the house to myself and I could do whatever I wanted. So that made me feel a little less upset, and I decided that I was going to make the best of the situation. While they were preparing for the trip, it felt like everyone had completely forgotten about me, and that was not a feeling that I was not exactly used to, but it really stung. On the day that they were leaving, my parents told me to take good care of the house, and at least they said goodbye to me. But my sister did not even glance at me and just left. None of this was surprising behavior coming from her, so you guys can imagine how bad my relationship with her is. For the first couple of days, I just invited my friends over and we played video games, had a bunch of junk food, and just did whatever we felt like right from the morning until the evening when they had to go home. And this was my plan for every day. On the final day, I was going to call my friends and tell them that they were free to come home that day as well, but at around 8 o'clock in the morning, I heard the doorbell ringing, and it was way too early for my friends to show up. I hadn't woken up properly yet either because I had been sleeping in late ever since I graduated from high school. So, when I went downstairs and looked outside the window to see who it was, I was kind of shocked to see my mother standing there. It took me a few minutes to remind myself that my mother was not here. She was with the rest of the family in Hawaii, and this must be somebody else. Then I noticed a couple of differences as well, like this woman who was standing outside the door was much taller than my mother. She also looked kind of younger, and she had blonde highlights in her hair, and my mom hated that. So I was able to gather that this was definitely not my mom, but someone who looked weirdly similar to her, and I decided to open the door after contemplating it for a bit because if she looked similar to my mother, it meant that she must be a relative of some sort. When I opened the door, she introduced herself as my mom's cousin and said that she had been living in the UK for the past 20 years. So I had probably never seen her before. From what I knew, my mother did not have any siblings and she was an only child, and this woman looked like she was just a couple of years younger than my mother, so I had guessed already that she must have been a cousin. But for a cousin to look that similar to my mom, it was just weird, and I definitely hadn't ever heard of my mom talking about some cousin from the UK. But then again, I don't really speak to my mother that often anyway. I invited her in, but I made sure to tell her that my parents were not home because I was certain that she had come to see them and not me. To my surprise, she told me that that was fine because she hadn't come to see them, she had actually come to see me and my sister. That was another shock for me because I couldn't imagine what she wanted to do with me and my sister. But anyway, I had to tell her that I was the only person who was home and my sister was away. She seemed a bit upset when I said that and asked me where the rest of them were. So I decided to be honest with her because her face just seemed like she could be trusted, and I told her the truth. Like most other people, she was also shocked when found out that my family had left me back home alone and had taken a trip to Hawaii with my sister to celebrate her high school graduation, even though I had also graduated at the same time. I kind of tried to downplay how terrible I had felt because I didn't want to make it seem like I was complaining to her, since I didn't want my mother to yell at me for spilling the beans about our family to her cousin when they came back. She told me how sorry she was and said that she could understand how I felt, so she wanted to give me a gift. Then she took out her checkbook from her purse and wrote me a check but asked me to fill in the amount. This was the first time that anything like this had ever happened, and I was shocked, so I told her that I couldn't let her do that because I just couldn't accept money from her. We went back and forth on that for a couple of minutes, and then she just said that she was going to fill in the amount that she wanted to give me and wrote me a check of $50,000. I insisted that I couldn't accept that from her because it was a huge amount, something that I couldn't even imagine. But she told me that she just wasn't going to hear it, and I had to accept it. She said that it was the least that she could do for me, and honestly, I still don't know what it means, but in the end, she forced me to accept the check. Then we spoke a bit about my family and how everyone else was doing, but I could tell that her mind was elsewhere, and she was definitely not listening to me. After about half an hour, she told me that she had to leave and said that she hoped to meet me soon enough again. Once she had left, I realized that it had been a very weird meeting, and her behavior had been extremely off-putting. I also couldn't shake off the feeling that she had been lying about being my mom's cousin because cousins definitely do not look that similar to each other. Or maybe they do sometimes, but I just got this feeling, and I still do, that my mom has a sister that none of us know about, and that's why she had to lie to me about being my mom's cousin. I know it's crazy and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that woman was the spitting image of my mother, and I could just feel it. But now, coming to the part where I kind of messed up, it was really careless of me, but I was so put off by that meeting with the woman that I forgot about the check. I left it there on the coffee table under a bunch of letters that had arrived from my parents during that week. Then my friends came over and we had a bit of a party with a couple of other people as well, so I completely forgot about that check. The next morning, my family came back from Hawaii, and everyone was in a celebratory mood, apart from me, obviously. A couple of minutes after they had come back home, my parents started going through their mail, and at the very bottom of it, they found that check. I am incredibly lucky that I was standing right there and I was able to snatch it out of my father's hands as soon as he saw it, but it was a tad bit too late because he had realized that it had been a check addressed to me and started asking a bunch of questions about it, which I don't really blame him for because if someone writes your son a check for $50,000, you definitely do want to ask questions about it. After they had found out about the check, I knew that there was no point in hiding anything, and I told them about the woman who had visited, the conversation that we had, and that she had written me that check because she wanted to, and I was going to deposit the check soon enough. One very interesting thing that happened while I was telling everyone about the visitor, I could see that my parents started looking very nervous, and I'm not even kidding when I said that the color literally drained out of their faces. It was very obvious because they had come back from Hawaii all tanned, and all of a sudden, they started to look pale and sweaty. I was about to ask my mother who on earth was this cousin from the UK, because I could tell that there was something that both of them were hiding from us. But before I could do that, thanks to my bratty sister, the conversation was completely derailed. She cannot live without making everything about her, so she obviously picked that very moment to start complaining about how the check had been addressed to only me and said that I should have spoken to that aunt and told her to make it out to both of us instead of just me. I told her that this woman had known about both of us. She had chosen to address the check to just me on purpose, and then I tried to go back to speaking to my parents, but all three of them started talking about the check instead. It was a clear attempt to change the topic of conversation, and it worked because my parents started encouraging my sister to fight with me, and she fell for the bait. Alex eventually started screaming at me to get my attention and said that this was very unfair and that I would have to split the amount with her. That got my attention, and I told her that there was no way on earth that was going to let that happen because she had already received her gift. She wanted a trip to Hawaii with her friends, and that's what she had gotten, and now this was my gift, so I'm not obliged to share it with her, just like she was not obliged to take me with her to Hawaii. I thought it was a fair enough statement, but my parents started egging her on and said that if my aunt had come to visit us, she had obviously intended to give us both a gift, but I implied that I must have played the victim card in front of her, and out of pity, she wrote me the check since I must have painted the rest of my family out to be the villains. Alex bought that story, and honestly, I didn't really have to play the victim card because I definitely was a victim here. I was the victim of a terrible family, and I don't know whether that woman wrote the check out of pity or not, but it had been addressed to me, and I was not going to share it with anyone. So obviously that led to a huge fight, and my parents were encouraging my sister to be even more delusional and entitled throughout the conversation. Maybe she was not clever enough to catch on to what they were trying to do, but I could understand that they were just trying to distract us from thinking about our aunt, and I was getting really pissed off because all of them were being ridiculous. Eventually, my mother told me that I was not going to be living with them anymore if I refused to share that money with my sister, and that's when I just totally lost it. I started yelling like a crazy person, which I usually try to avoid because I don't want to be on the same level as my family, but I just couldn't control myself. I told them that I knew my right and I was not going anywhere, and neither was I sharing the money with her. To be honest, I don't really know if there are any laws to prevent that, but I'm sure that after my outburst, they definitely won't be coming after me anytime soon. I also called my parents the biggest liars because I was sure that they were hiding something from both of us, and I couldn't believe that they were trying to get us to fight with each other so that we would forget about the visitor. Then I stormed up to my room so I could calm down, threw a bunch of stuff around, and eventually was able to get myself under control. Since then, nobody in the family has spoken to me, and even at meal times, my mother brings the food up to me and leaves without a word. I feel like a prisoner in my own house, and I honestly felt like running away last night. The only person who has said anything to me so far was Alex, but even she was just looking out for herself. She came to my room this morning and said that all of this could have been avoided if I had just agreed to split the money with her and stopped bugging my parents about our aunt when I could see that they didn't want to talk about it, and now I don't have anybody to blame apart from myself for the hole I have dug myself into. After having said that, she left, and I thought that she was the most selfish person ever. But then I started thinking about a lot of things, and maybe I've been acting just like her. $50,000 is a huge amount. Splitting it with her was not going to harm me or whatever, but I just wanted it all to myself. And I also feel like I might have read too much into the situation with my aunt, but at the same time, their reaction was too suspicious not to take note of, and I feel like I'm losing my mind right now. I just have so many mixed emotions about everything that I don't even know what I'm so upset about. So I really need to ask, do you guys think that there was anything suspicious about the way my parents reacted to the news of my aunt visiting? And more importantly, am I the asshole for refusing to split the $50,000 with my sister? Update 1. Hi guys, first of all, thank you so very much for all the responses and comments on my post. Never in my life had I imagined that so many people could have something to say to me and would take time out of their lives to actually give me advice on such a situation. It also feels very comforting to know that there are more people like me out there, so thanks for that. I guess I was a bit all over the place in my original post, but I would honestly blame that on the kind of situation that I'm in. But anyway, I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet this time. So first things first, I have decided to move out of my parents' house. I've thought about it long and hard. They want this, and I definitely want it. I never left home because I thought it would be taking things too far, but this time it's my parents who have taken it too far. I have never gotten along with them, nor have I ever gotten along with my sister. I just don't see the point in staying with them anymore. So I have decided that I'm going to live with a friend of mine until college starts. His parents very kindly agreed to let me live with them for free even though I offered to pay rent to them. The bottom line is I'm getting out of here, and obviously, I'm keeping all the money. All things said and done, the check has been made out to me and just me. I'm not obliged to share that kind of money with anyone, least of all my sister. If they hadn't left me at home by myself while they went off on vacation, I probably wouldn't even have met my aunt, and neither would I have received that kind of money. So in a way, they are responsible for this. She has never treated me with kindness or respect, so it's very stupid of her to expect me to share the money with her now, and I'm sure that my parents will always take care of her. Can't say the same for myself, though, so I definitely need the money more than she does. I don't even know why I was considering splitting it with her or having second thoughts about whether I was doing the right thing. I guess I was just too emotional, but I have thought about it, and I don't need to feel sorry for what I'm doing. They never have, and it's fair enough for me to act just like them. It has been 3 days since my post, and I've been packing everything up. Tomorrow around the afternoon, my friend's dad will be here with his pickup truck, and I will be gone, and I really just can't wait. Update 2. So a lot of things have changed in my life since my last update, and it's crazy to think that it was only 4 days back. I don't even know where to start, but I guess a good place to pick up would be where I left off. So I said that I was going to move out of my parents' home, and I did that. The day after I made that post, my friend's father was here to pick me up, and he helped me move all my things. Obviously, I did not have to take any furniture with me. It was just a bunch of boxes, and my parents saw all of that happening but did not ask any questions. Alex did not even bother to come out of her room. She just popped out once, saw what was going on, and then went back inside. After we had moved the last of the boxes, I was about to leave without even saying goodbye because I was sure that nobody really cared about it. But before I was able to walk out of the door, my mother stopped me and asked me where I thought I was going. So I told her that for the past couple of days, nobody in the family had spoken to me, and everybody liked to pretend that I did not even exist. Now they did not have to pretend anymore. They could fully be themselves around the house and forget about me in the true sense because I was moving out. It shouldn't come as a shock to them because she herself had said that if I did not share the money with my sister, I would not have a place in this house anymore. Since I had decided that I was not going to be sharing the money with anyone, I thought it was better for me to leave on my own rather than be kicked out. My parents told me that I was being stupid and that this arrogance of mine would wear off once I had realized that $50,000 was not enough to last in the world on my own. I just ignored that and I walked out, and they did not try to talk to me any further. My friend's father, funnily enough, was a lot more compassionate than my own parents and told me that everything was going to be fine on the drive to his house. There, they set me up in the guest room, and that's where I have been staying. My friend has always been a great stand-up guy, and his family is the reason why. They're all just kind and sweet, and looking at them, I realized that this is how families are supposed to be. So I'm happy to be living with them until it's time for me to leave for college. But that was not all that happened over the past couple of days. I was also able to find out the truth behind the visitor that we had, and I'm still struggling to come to terms with it. I think I had mentioned several times that the woman who had visited us looked uncannily similar to my mother, and I had already suspected that she might have been a sister that we did not know about. And I guess I was right because last evening, she reached out to me on social media and told me a bunch of things that I honestly don't know what to think about. Apparently, she's my mom's younger sister, but she had been cast out of the family because she got pregnant when she was 19. And well, you guys can probably already guess who her kids are. Yeah, it's us. Alex and I are her children. But because she was just 19 and still in college, her parents forced her to give us up for adoption, and around the same time, my parents had started trying for a baby but were struggling with conception. After one family meeting, it was decided that my mother would adopt her children, but the catch was that my parents only wanted one kid, and they wanted a girl child. That's when my biological mother put her foot down and said that both her children were going to go to the same set of parents. She was not going to separate us, and my grandparents convinced my parents to adopt us both. For the first couple of months after our adoption, my birth mother kept visiting us both, but I guess my mom was not fine with it anymore and told her parents that she wanted her to stop visiting them. My mother claimed that it was going to confuse us to have two maternal figures growing up and said that it would be for the best for her to stay away from our family until my mother was fine with having her over. My grandparents decided that my mother was right, so they told my biological mother to stay away until my mom was ready to allow her to have a relationship with us. That led to a massive fight, and they did not speak for several years. Finally, she got back in touch with her parents at the beginning of this year, and I guess my grandparents have had a change of heart, so they gave her our address, and that's how she visited us both. Alex and I are 18 now, so she thought it was going to be the perfect time to start building a relationship with us, and maybe eventually she would be able to tell us the truth. But after she had met me and realized how I was being treated by my family, she realized that she had made a mistake by allowing my mother to adopt her children, especially when it had been made obvious to her that my mother was only interested in raising her daughter. So she definitely had adopted both of us, but she had only accepted Alex and not me, and she felt responsible for this. So she reached out to me and felt like it was her duty to tell me the truth because nobody else was going to. Several hours have passed since then, and I still haven't been able to come to terms with it. I don't even know what to think about it, and I haven't told anyone, not even my friend who I'm living with right now. Typing it out here has helped me at least say it out loud once, but I still don't know what to do with this information. I haven't responded to her message, but she can see that I have read it. I guess it explains a lot of things, but God, I don't even know what to feel anymore. I'm just numb and confused and lost. But anyway, it's not like the world has stopped turning because of this revelation, and I'm gonna have to do something about it eventually. I just don't know what, but I'll figure it out, and I'm sure that the comments here will be helpful as well. Update 3. Hey, so 2 weeks have passed since I received that message from my aunt/mother. To be honest, I'm not really sure what to call her yet. She had introduced herself as someone who was supposed to be my aunt, but now she is my mother all of a sudden. Also, I have to say that even she is a better mother than the one who raised me. Anyway, I took my own sweet time to respond to her message, and I texted her back just 3 days ago. I told her that there was a lot to discuss, so I would want to meet in person, but I was open to having a relationship with her. I had already lost the family that I thought I had. Couldn't hurt to give her a chance. Everyone screwed up, and she was 19. I can't hold that against her. I haven't told Alex about it yet, because I don't think it's my place to say anything. I think our mother has to tell her the truth now. Which mother tells her the truth? That I don't know. All I know is that in a couple of days I'm going to be meeting with my biological mom, and we are going to try and fix our relationship because she's back for good and isn't going anywhere anymore. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. I just hope it goes well. Keeping my fingers crossed. Now on to the next story. Story 11. Wife was acting strange when I went on a 3-month work trip. Later, when I came back, I found someone's socks under our bed and discovered her secret affair. So I took my ultimate revenge. I, 33M, met my wife, 31F, 8 years ago on a dating app. At the time, neither of us was looking for anything serious. We were both young, and we wanted to make the best of our youth while we could. But then we fell for each other, and all of that went out the window. We wanted to be with each other all the time, and things quickly got serious. I knew before she and I even met that my wife was polyamorous. At the time, it wasn't something I cared much about. I just went into our relationship thinking it was going to be a casual, fun time. I was definitely curious about what that was and how that worked in her life, but personally, I've always been monogamous. My wife told me one day when things started to get serious that for the first time in years she was only thinking about one person, and that was me. There was a bit of a disconnect between us when we first started exclusively dating because I felt like I was taking something away from her through monogamy. However, she assured me that it was what she wanted. We had some ups and downs, and we were able to work it out to be together. Eventually, I proposed to her and we got married. Some of the people in my family were not at all understanding of polyamory, and they were practically betting that I would end up getting divorced before I was with my wife. I didn't know much about it, and I might have thought the same thing, but she explained everything to me in such a way that I understood what it was, and I trusted that should she ever have any issues with monogamy that she would come to me and we could talk about them. About 3 years into our marriage, I got the opportunity of a lifetime for work. It required me to travel abroad for 3 months to do some on-site filming for an advertising agency. They were pretty much paying me to travel all over Asia and visit some of the best tourist sites and take pictures. All expenses paid, hotels, meals, airfare, everything you can think of. After a long discussion with my wife, we decided that it was too good of an opportunity to pass up, and I agreed to take it. Of course, that meant that she would be alone back home while I was away, except for 1 week when she would be meeting me in Tokyo since our schedules aligned. I said goodbye to her and I set off on my grand adventure. I had a great time. Every night I would FaceTime with my wife and we would catch up. I had no fears that anything was going to happen while I was away. One night, I called her for FaceTime around 5 p.m. while I was in Thailand. That was around 8 a.m. in our time zone. Our typical call schedule had been just like that. I would call her in the evening when I got finished with all of my things, and she was usually drinking coffee in the kitchen when I did. However, this time she didn't answer. At first, I figured that she must have slept late or forgotten to set her alarm, but deep down I knew that was not like her at all. She had always been the kind of person to wake up at 7 a.m. on the dot without even needing an alarm to do so. Still, I didn't suspect that she was with someone else. I just texted her and told her that I missed her and loved her, and I would give her a call the next morning since we would both be busy and/or asleep. When I was finally able to get on the phone with her again, I asked her about what happened. It wasn't an accusatory question. It was more of curiosity since it just wasn't like her. She got defensive with her answer. She made it sound like I was insinuating something when I wasn't by any means. I ended the call before an argument started. That was the last thing I wanted while I was trying to enjoy myself. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to her reaction that I didn't know about. Eventually, we made up and everything was fine leading up to her visiting me in Tokyo. She got off the plane, and I was at the airport to pick her up. I was excited to see her. She was my wife and I loved her and I missed her. It had only been 2 weeks since I last saw her, but the first thing I wanted to do was just go back to the hotel room and be intimate with her. When we got there, she told me she wasn't in the mood because she was a little bit jet-lagged from the flight. I completely understood where she was coming from, so I didn't want to pressure her into doing anything, so we both just laid down and talked for a while. Throughout the rest of the week, every time I would try to initiate something with her, she would come up with a reason to reject it. Whenever she would end it, I wouldn't ask any questions or try to pressure her to give me answers about why she didn't want to sleep with me. It did strike me as odd because she has always been the type of person who was very eager to have intimacy. The Tokyo trip ended for her, and I still had 1 week left on my journey. It flew by, and I couldn't wait to get home because I could feel that there was some distance growing between my wife and me. Everything seemed normal when I got there, but she still wasn't wanting to sleep with me. After the first couple of days I was back, she started staying late at work, and it honestly felt like she was actively avoiding me. At that point, I had let a lot of my insecurities about what was going on with our relationship pile up, and I confronted her about it when she returned home. She told me that I was being obnoxious with my accusations. In fact, she ended up guilt-tripping me for why she was staying late at work. She told me it was because she had to take time off work to visit me in Tokyo as I pressured her to do. We got into a huge argument about that and I ended up sleeping on the couch. Just the following day, which happened to be a Saturday, she told me she had to go to work for some last-minute troubleshooting at the office. In all the time we had been together, she had never worked a Saturday. I think it was at that point that I really thought something was going on. All the time that we had been together, we had never had any issues with her polyamory. But as soon as I started to think that something was wrong, it popped its head right up. I couldn't help but wonder if she had taken advantage of the time that I was gone and slept with another person. For a while, I convinced myself that I was just exaggerating and purposefully trying to hurt my feelings by thinking things like that. I distracted myself by trying to clean up some of the house. As I was looking under our bed to pull out any old clothes or trash, etc., I found a sock. It was only one sock, but it wasn't mine. I knew that, and it wasn't the type of sock that my wife wore. It was someone else's sock who didn't live in my house. That was the push that I needed to seriously consider that my wife was in fact cheating on me. I went to her office and looked through her desktop to see if there were any indications of who it was with or what she was doing while she was supposedly at work. There was no indication from any of her recent emails that she needed to go into the office for any reason, so that helped me realize that she had already lied to me. Her inbox seemed clean, but when I looked over her desktop and clicked on her recycle bin, I found some pictures and videos that she had deleted but hadn't cleared. My heart completely sank when I saw that. I recognized the man in the pictures right away. He was one of her coworkers. I had met him a few times at company gatherings, and I always thought he was a bit chummy with my wife. I would make jokes about it with her, and she would just laugh it off with me and tell me that he was married too, so I had nothing to worry about. I guess they both saw a prime opportunity to cheat on their partners while I was out of town. I emailed myself the evidence and immediately began looking for a divorce attorney. Right away, I started thinking of a way to get back at both of them for their betrayal. Knowing that my wife was cheating on me was one thing, but the fact that she was cheating on me with a married man and ruining 2 relationships knowingly was like a slap in the face. I looked her coworker up on social media and found his wife pretty easily. I sent her a message asking if we could set up a time to speak face-to-face since I had some news to share about her husband. She probably assumed the worst right away, but she agreed to meet me at a cafe. I saw her world crumbling when I told her, and I felt terrible. I felt the exact same way. I didn't want to let either of them just get away with their affair when they ruined both of our lives. I needed to come up with some way to get back at them. I spent the next few weeks pretending like everything was all right with my wife, and I encouraged the partner of her coworker to do the same. We both planned on leaving our spouses, but we wanted to get everything in order first. Both of us were going to surprise them with our divorce papers on the same day so neither of them would have time to prepare. When everything was done, I brought my wife out to a lovely restaurant. She thought I was surprising her with a nice date. Toward the end of the meal, she asked me what prompted the gesture, so I figured I might as well tell her. I pulled out the papers and slid them across the table to her. She was shocked and hysterical. She tried to contain herself, but really, it was quite the scene. Other diners were watching us while she started crying. I explained why and told her I saw the pictures and I wasn't going to be with a cheater. She tried to tell me I was misinterpreting them and that she hadn't cheated, but I didn't believe it. I just left the restaurant, leaving her to pick up the bill. We got divorced and now we're living separately and have no contact with each other at all. Funnily enough, her coworker's wife actually messaged me one day and asked to get together. We kind of hit it off. Things are still complicated because the wounds are so fresh, but there could be something there. Now on to the next story. Story 12. Cheating wife told me she was going out with friends, but GPS proved otherwise, so I surprised her. I, 29M, recently divorced my ex-wife, 27F, due to infidelity. My wife and I first met at a mutual friend's housewarming party, and we liked each other instantly. She was sweet and intelligent, and the more we got to know ourselves better, my feelings for her increased. Like every other love story, we went on multiple dates, dated, and married after 2 years of dating. If a psychic had told me that my wife would cheat on me in the future, I wouldn't have believed her. My wife and I were the kind of couple you would see wearing matching outfits and holding hands wherever we went. We were always all over each other, and she adored the ground I walked on. Our marriage was fun and happy, and we explored so much together. My wife was my first true love. I had been in relationships in high school and college, but they weren't serious. I was the shy teenage boy and adult who sucked at sustaining relationships, but it was so easy with my wife. We clicked easily, and everything was smooth between us. My wife worked as a hairdresser in a ladies' beauty shop while I worked for a construction company. We both looked forward to a simple and happy life and were content with what we earned. For the 2 years my wife and I were married, I never suspected my wife was cheating. In fact, it felt like a dream when I found out that she was cheating on me. My wife loved hanging out with her friends at least once a week. They would often go out on Friday evenings as a group, fix a picnic on Saturdays, or even hang out at a bar. I wasn't so social like my wife, and I didn't have a lot of friends, but I had one of my colleagues from work who I was very close to, and he was almost like my best friend. Before I found out that my wife was cheating on me, a couple of signs led to my suspicion. For example, my wife, who used to be talkative and would share the latest gist with me whenever she returned home, suddenly became reserved. She only talked when I asked her a question, and our conversations felt forced. She always made me feel like she was doing me a favor whenever we spoke, and I hated that. In the bedroom, she started complaining that I loved getting intimate too much and that life did not revolve around getting intimate all the time. If she wasn't complaining about that, she would tell me she wasn't in the mood. She always gave one excuse after the other. When this started, I thought she acted that way because she was very stressed from work and indirectly vented her frustration on me. I didn't take action immediately because I believed she would come around. There was even a time I thought I was the problem, and I began to reevaluate myself. I watched how I talked to her, my tone, and even how I acted around her. I was a very bossy person in nature, but I always consciously tried to talk to her as a wife, and I watched my tone all the time. I even went as far as taking her out to fancy dinners because there was also a time she complained that I was getting boring and I stopped doing the things we used to do while we were dating. I tried my best to rekindle our love and get back to the happy couple we once were, but nothing I did worked. She didn't appreciate anything I did, so I just stopped. When I stopped, I started paying more attention to her body language. For example, if I tried to hug her from behind like I used to, she would push me with her elbow and look disgusted. That happened at least 3 different times before I concluded something was wrong. Meanwhile, I noticed that she would dress well each time she said she wanted to go out with her friends. It's not like she wasn't dressing well before. She seemed more excited and took more time to do her makeup and hair. The truth was, I suspected she was seeing someone mainly because of her changes, and I planned to confront her once I had proof. I wasn't the kind of man who would wait 10 days or for eternity to plan a stupid revenge before I confronted her. I had serious anger issues, and I'd teach her a lesson before we got to the revenge part. One day, I was at home on a weekend, thinking of ways to find out if my wife was having an affair behind my back. Our relationship had gotten worse, and we were almost like a male and female roommate living together, and we only spoke to each other for important reasons. I watched my wife dress up, do her hair, and do her makeup before she left. She said she was going out with the girls, and she left. For some reason, my instincts told me she was lying. I can't explain why, but I strongly believed she was lying. So, after she left, I called one of her girlfriends and pretended like I wanted to speak with my wife. I claimed I kept calling her number, but she wasn't taking my calls. When I explained everything to her, her friend was confused because she was across the country and didn't have plans to meet with my wife that weekend. Her friend also said that before they all hung out together, they would announce it on their private WhatsApp group chat, but there was no announcement, and she was sure my wife wasn't hanging with the other girls. Immediately I heard this, I knew she had either gone to be with her lover or she had to be somewhere else. I wasn't even bothered about finding her because I knew I could track her by GPS. Without wasting time, I left the house and followed her GPS, and it led me to a football stadium. To confirm this, I saw my wife's car parked outside and knew she was there. There weren't many people in the stadium, making it easier to spot her. When I saw her, I was shocked to see her with her little sister's high school football coach, and she was in his arms, laughing and kissing him regularly. The sight alone made me so furious. I wanted her to know I had seen her, so I walked to her. In her app, I took out my phone and started making the video. As I walked to them, I was even talking in the video as if I was addressing her parents and showing them how much of a horrible daughter they raised. When my wife heard my voice, she turned in my direction, and her face became pale. When she saw me, she was so stupid to call my name and ask me what I was doing there, and I went straight and attacked the football coach. At that moment, I wasn't thinking straight. I was so angry and beat the hell out of him, but thankfully some people saw us and separated us. My wife didn't know if she should beg or stop me. She just stood there in shock and couldn't even say a word. I was hurt but tried not to show my emotions until I got home. When I got home, I cried a bit and spent a lot of time throwing out her stuff on our lawn. I also sent the video I recorded to her parents, and they were so disappointed and angry at her. Her sister was the most disappointed because she could not believe my wife would have an affair with her football coach. My wife did not come home that day. She came home the next day and kept banging on my door, so I could let her in for us to talk. I told her I'd call the police if she didn't get off my property. And when she didn't leave, I called the police on her. She even resisted them and acted aggressively, so they took her away. Some days later, I received messages from Facebook, and it was my wife texting me with a new Facebook account. I had blocked her old Facebook account. She begged me to take her back and allow her to explain everything. She claimed I was always so tired when I returned from work, and I didn't give her attention and time like I used to, and that pushed her to get the attention somewhere else. She also said she didn't love her app as much as she loved me and was only with him because of how he made her feel. I was slightly disappointed to hear that, but it still didn't change the fact that she betrayed me by cheating on me. When I told her we were getting divorced, she pleaded that I shouldn't make a decision I would regret and I should give her a second chance. How bold of her. Long story short, we ended up divorcing, and her parents disinherited her. As for her affair partner, her parents reported him to the school, and the school was tired of always getting different parents complaining about the same thing, so he was fired. Though this happened long ago, and I moved on, it still hurts. I have decided to channel the pain and focus on something more productive for now. I no longer have the time for women, and I don't think I will anytime soon. Now on to the next story. Story 13. Wife had an emotional affair with a boy she met on Omegle. Sent him nudes and let him talk to our daughter. Then she told me I'm lazy and not good enough compared to him. I, 27M, and my wife, 25F. She first started talking to this guy last year when he was 17 and my wife 24. She became withdrawn, would let a lot of things slide, lose interest in her hobbies, the household, the kids, her friends, me. She admitted to me in tears that she had started chatting a guy from Omegle one night when bored. They had exchanged contact details. She made a Snapchat just for him and so did he. They began chatting there regularly. This guy is handsome. He's young. He's an athlete. And he's fit as can be. He's funny. He's awesome. He mesmerizes her. Makes her laugh all the time. She finds herself falling for him. And she admits her mistake to me. I am so sad and upset. But I forgive her. She promises to block him. Remove her app. Things are cool for a while, but months later, I find out she still has Snapchat. She says it's for her other friends. I push the issue. Turns out she still talks to the guy. I am not okay with this. She says they are just friends. I tell her to block his ass. She says she does. Around December last year, I discovered she never did block him. Still talks to him. I am so mad. I break into her phone one day, see her Snapchat open and a message from him. I love you, it says. Scroll up more and see a picture of my own wife's breast staring me in the face. She sent him her tits for his birthday. Once more, she blocks the guy. I think things are fine, but I am starting to lose my feelings for my wife. One time around Christmas, my oldest daughter tells me excitedly that she had a phone call with Sebastian the Crab, like the buddy of Ariel, the little mermaid from the Disney movie. I shrug it off. I mean, 4-year-olds make shit up all the time, right? And she has a very rich imagination. She constantly insists she's a real fairy or princess and claims to have magic powers and whatever. I find out just yesterday that my wife never stopped talking to the guy until this past February when he suddenly ghosted her out of nowhere, which makes sense because she was very sad and depressed at the time. She then deleted all her apps and accounts in anger and now has no way of contacting the guy or being contacted by him. Not sure if I even believe that anymore, but sure. She was sharing all she did to me like she wanted it off her chest. I just let her talk and she admits to it all. Says she really fell in love with him. Mentions how she read a lot on Quora about polyamory. Quora is her Bible and that she feels like she can love multiple people at once. That her love for me has not diminished by loving another guy. Then she admits she even had voice calls with the guy at night when I am away. I often work night shift. At times our oldest daughter would wake up and he'd talk to her too. He sang her to sleep a few times and he pretended to be Sebastian the Crab, which is what my daughter tried to tell me. She tried to tell on her mama, I think, but I shrugged it off. I am so insanely angry she would allow herself as a grown woman to fall for some boy on the other side of the globe. I am feeling betrayed by the fact that she showed her body to him. What makes me the most mad, however, is that he talked to my daughter. He even saw her picture in a video. He called her Little Dua, like the singer Dua Lipa, because he thinks she looks like a toddler version of that singer. The whole thing is so creepy. The fact that he was just 17 when my wife and him met online is creepy to me. The fact that she allowed him to talk to our firstborn daughter. It's all messed up. I fear she may have wanted to run off with the guy. She's talked a lot about the place he lives, California, and I'm just weirded out by that, too. I don't know what to do. I'm heartbroken. My wife and I have a daughter another daughter, too, and she is currently pregnant as well. She blames some of her behavior on pregnancy hormones, which is nonsense. She also tried to subtly push polyamory on me as well. I'm so done with her. But I also love our daughters and do not want them to grow up in a broken home. She's gone back to normal in some sense. She does her hobbies. She cares for the kids and runs the household as before. She is sweet to me at times. We make love often, but most of the time, as much as it pains me to say, I feel nothing. I'm 27 years old. I felt last year that I had it all. I felt on top of the world. Now I feel like I already lost it. Update. So here's an update. I have read all the responses to my previous topic but did not find time to respond and reply to each and every one of them individually. The common thought seems to be that I need to man up and take responsibility of my life, and many have advised me to kick out my wife or seek legal counsel and start gathering evidence. Financially speaking, as a young father of soon-to-be 3 kids, I cannot just call up a lawyer like that. We are not Americans, and we are not in America either. So, I do not know which laws do and do not apply to our situation. The guy she had her emotional affair with, however, is in the States, but they lost contact. And my wife claims she does not know his last name or exact location, only his first name. Some have suggested she was the one being catfished, but she says no because she actually had video calls with the guy and he looked like the images he had previously sent her. My wife admitted a lot of things to me in our talk. For example, she's a singer-songwriter, or rather, she tries to be one. She has written a lot of songs, passionate, romantic, and sweet-loving songs over the last half-year. I was touched by them before. Thought they were about me. Turns out they weren't. Turns out they were about that guy. This devastated me. The whole affair, my wife said, inspired her. She told me about how hardworking the guy is, how he is going to a top university, how clever and bright he is, blah blah blah. She said she considers me lazy, not ambitious enough, that I am good with the kids and all that, a decent provider, but that I am not really someone she sees as being capable of greatness. She likes the fact that I look good and our kids look good and that I have a lot of focus on their well-being. But she needs a life partner, not just a babysitter. This infuriated me because when I take care of my kids, I am not just a babysitter. I am their father and I am caring for them because I love them and I am responsible for them. She admitted she often thinks of going back to her own country and living with her parents. My in-laws are quite well-to-do and my ML has a lot of time on her hands to help out. My wife is not originally from the same country as me. My wife said she'd take the kids follow her dreams in the city she studied in, which she thinks will give her a better chance at success. She also regrets having married me in the first place. She says that she wouldn't have married me if she knew at the time how lazy I was. For the record, I am not lazy. I work night shift 3 nights a week. Also work during days several other days. On the evenings I am home, I manage to cook at least twice a week. I do groceries, pick the kids up from school, make them sleep too regularly. I handle the kids on evenings I am free to allow my wife to go to classes to develop herself. She is pregnant and I massage her at times for up to 90 minutes so her back and legs won't be too painful. I'm a hero to that woman and she does not realize it. Instead, she compares me to some other guy she's never even met in person. And somehow, I don't quite measure up because I didn't go to a top school. I'm not rich. I'm less ambitious. And this makes me lazy and useless. So now I'm looking at my options. I'm 27 years old. I am in decent shape. And I am not a bad-looking guy. I'm a good father. I'm a good provider. I'm a good son and a loyal friend. I've been a good husband, too. But apparently, I'm not good enough. Well, guess what? Neither is she. She's far from sufficient. She's far from good enough. But I never say even 1% of the hateful and negative shit she tells me. Never. I've told her all this. I have told her how I feel. I told her that I do not feel respected. That I feel like shit, treated like shit, tossed aside like shit. That I will not continue to support her in her dreams if this is what she wants to do. I also told her that she is not going to take the kids anywhere. That if she wants to leave, she can leave, but she will do it by herself. She is not a citizen yet of my country, and I reminded her of the fact whereas our kids are. I have taken hold of our kids' passports and now hold them with me as I write this. I am not letting go of them. If she wants to leave, she can. But it will just be her and the unborn baby leaving, and she won't bring any of my stuff with her. That laptop she has been using to chat to the guy, it's now with me, too. I bought her that laptop. I'm taking it back. I'm taking back control of my life. I am still considering what further steps I will take. But whatever she has planned, I'm not about to lay down and take it. Since telling me all this and her hearing my response, all of us as a family have attended a family event. My wife pretended to be fine. She has stopped saying negative things to me. She's not on her phone anymore. I distrust her, but even though I have told her where the door is, she has not left the house either. I think she is backing down a bit by now. Now on to the next story. Story 14. husband and I agreed to have a threesome with our friend. During it, he got jealous and stormed out because I was having too much fun. My husband and I have been together 8 years and married for 3. We have an active sex life and had a very good romantic relationship. In the past month and a half, we have been talking about opening the relationship to be able to experience things together. I have only known him and he has had other experiences. We have very close friends who have an open relationships for their entire friendship, and we're in the talks of doing something together with our female friend. We have spent a very long time talking about how we only want this to be physical and not emotional. We set up rules and made sure that if we proceed with this, we must be very open and communicate everything. After a lot of back and forth and prep, we have decided we do want to go forward with this and plan to get together one of these days. Since we are in a different state, we traveled yesterday to visit our friends and see family. He did not mention anything about doing things today with said friends, and I expected today to just be a very platonic get-together. Towards 11:30 p.m., he told me he wanted to do things with her, and very shortly after that, she pulled me to the side to let me know that my husband expressed that to her. I did not want to be involved at first since 1, he did not state that it was a three-way, and 2, I was exhausted. Fast forward, after some truth or dare exercises, I got involved and it was great. I went to shower quickly and prep while they continued alone, and by the time I came back, he got off and they were waiting for me. We continued and it was honestly fun. Sometime after I got off, he just stared at us, ignored our calls for an invitation, and he just left the house. My friend and I quickly got dressed and we ran out to follow. Confused. He was expressing how he was feeling insecure and jealous and that it completely killed his mood. Without going into extreme detail, we asked our friend to give us space, and my husband basically said he didn't like seeing me in that situation and that the sex was unfair. It was 2 a.m. by the point, and I didn't want to look insane arguing outside, so after some back and forth, I told him we can continue inside. He explained that he felt bad once he saw that she was going down on me and I was having fun. He let it bottle up, and instead of saying anything, he just walked out. At first, I was trying to understand and try and talk about this more until my friend mentioned that they talked about this prior and that she thought he would be okay. I was very confused because I thought this was a last-minute thing. Turns out he has been sexting her and talking to her about this for a month, all while telling her that I knew. She was very open and handed me her phone and showed me all the texts and messages where she reiterates that I need to be told / made aware / be okay with it, and he always told her I was good with it. This is where it all went to hell. He has been lying to all of us. He has been keeping things secret, and worst of all, he worded / slid things in a way so that I am in a position to just agree with it. I had a very serious and harsh conversation with him in front of our friends that what he did broke all of the rules we set. I even find out he came in her during this. We were fighting until 6 a.m. I genuinely don't know if we can come back from this. It's not about the sex, it's the lying and throwing back blame to me. He does this often. Halfway through me tearing him a new one, he admitted to all his faults and provided no excuses. He genuinely thought that this wasn't going to be a problem because I agreed to explore, too. He also said that the sex was unfair because it felt like I was getting special service and not him. By the time I got involved, he already was finished. Everything led to him basically acting out because I got involved in the sex. He just wanted me to let him have fun but won't accept that I want to as well. He left back to our home state and I will be staying here for another 2 weeks. I don't even know how to feel and I have been jumping from sad to mad to nothing. I'm sorry if this isn't as detailed or if it's messy. It is missing a lot, but this is the first time I'm writing a post this long. Ever. I can provide more details and questions. I know that this stemmed from an insecurity from him, but I would like some advice on how to approach him with this and see why he genuinely thought this would be okay. How do I proceed with this? What can I do to help him understand what he did was not okay at all? Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. I get that, but if it's supposed to be a threesome, you would think she would be like, hang on a second, let's wait for her. She did. She kept inviting me and talking me through any anxiety. We are very close friends and trust each other 100%. He kept reassuring her that I knew, so she did not push very hard. Throughout all her messages, she always brought me up and how I should know. Comment 2. I get that, But if it's supposed to be a threesome, you would think she would be like, hang on a second, let's wait for her. Comment 3. For all we know, he could have lied to her about that too. Don't worry. She wants us to get things started while she gets ready. Comment 2. That is very possible, but it still seems weird to me as it was planned to be a threesome. OP. We planned a threesome, but he went out of his way to ask for one-on-one behind my back. I seriously wouldn't have minded at all if he was at least honest with me. Comment 4. Why hadn't she spoken to you about the messages at all within the month if you two are such close friends? OP. All of us are extremely close friends who have 100% trust in each other. If she told me tomorrow that she is a bird, I would ask what type of seeds are your favorite. He kept reassuring her and taking advantage of that trust. Even if this were to somehow get solved, I doubt their friendship with him will remain untainted. Update. I wanted to provide some more info. 1. I told him to seek therapy. I refused to do anything/talk until he can get some sessions in. This way, I can also have some time for myself, as well as actually enjoy time visiting friends/family. He has already signed up to some programs and is waiting for an appointment, according to another mutual friend. 2. I really don't care about sex and I'm not emotionally connected to the act itself, just him. I can live the rest of my life without it, but I completely love my husband and want to bang with him. 3. He was very much telling me for weeks that he was on the same page as me. We collect our nut and go. He obviously lied about that too. 4. My friend didn't even know he came in her until I rejoined and he said it. We were both very shocked. She is on BC and thoroughly cleaned out as much as humanity possible. 5. I tore him a new one and yelled at him nonstop for like 4 hours. I just don't know if he actually understands what he did. I seriously do not care about the sex/sexting if he just told me about it. 6. My friends and I have 100,000% trust in each other. If he let them know I'm sick, they wouldn't even ask me directly. They would just start making me soups and teas. He kept reassuring her and letting her know that I was okay and aware. I was not. If there is anything else, I will update, probably. Thank you all for your responses. We already had discussed this amongst friends, minus him, and mentioned most things that were commented below, but this is very soothing/calming, being able to see outsiders' opinions that match what I am feeling. I hope you all have a good night/day. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. You had a good relationship, then decided to destroy it by opening a great relationship. He was an idiot who messed it up in his own way. The OP is also an idiot who messed it up more by staying back with the other sex partner for another 2 weeks. This is only going to destroy the relationship more. Leave the friend's house and go back to your husband and sort out the problem with the help of a therapist, or go and stay with your parents instead of staying with the friend to have more sex. Trust me, this is only going to destroy you. You will regret this action a lot and it will be too late to realize it. You can blame your husband for everything and take advantage of that blame and do it your way, but by doing that, you are fooling yourself. All the best. OP. I never stayed with him. I am visiting family and we stopped by to say hi. I only ever wanted to explore the type of sex with him. He has to see a therapist before we talk because I unfortunately discovered more. I won't stoop to the same level he went to. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.